Faith? I had a girl named Faith. She cheated on me with a girl named Chastity.
Yeah.
That's Tom Sizemore. Rest his soul. Rest in peace.
Yep.
From Red Planet.
The geneticist.
Yeah. He was the scientist character, which is very interesting casting for for a character like that.
Yeah. That's what I thought too. Because they do well, we'll get into it, but they do the things. I didn't realize who he was when they got on the planet. I kind of forgot his title.
Yeah.
And then they had that conversation. I was like, really? Like him?
Right. Yeah. They shoehorn it in there almost like, oh, by the way, in case you forgot, this guy is a scientist. Because, they have him say stuff about like mathematics and shit.
Yes.
Or something like that.
We'll get into it. Yeah. We'll get into it because there's. Yes.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, man.
Talk about it. So
do we have to do our names?
I was just going to.
Oh.
You beat me to the punch. I'm Kyle, by the way.
And I'm Mac.
This is episode 50.
Yes.
Of the Neon Crew podcast. Episode 50. So I've been thinking about this for quite some time, just like episode 50. So in addition to the questions that we got, I also have a couple questions that I will ask at the end of the Q&A segment, just to kind of talk about the podcast itself and just get our thoughts on certain things,
Yeah.
Just like different ideas and all that.
Awesome. That'll be sweet because I got the same. I caught gruff from a couple people about just doing movies for Ep 50.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I hadn't thought about that. So, STFU.
Right. We'll do what we want.
Yeah.
But no, I guess one thing that I'm curious about that I'll ask right off the bat is, I don't know about you, but I really enjoy doing this, just to take a moment to get sentimental.
Yeah.
I enjoy the fact that we are able to do something like this and that we have a handful of listeners that tune in consistently every time we put one out and check out our content on various platforms. And I'm just really glad that I'm able to do this with you.
Yeah, same. No, I agree. This is one of the things that we have a routine built up now, and it's something that I appreciate. So, I mean, I not necessarily the every other Sunday aspect, but it's every other Monday I love. And the fact that we get to talk about movies, and it's a nice, engaging conversation that you can have with other people too.
Exactly.
And besides ourselves, I'm sure that you've got to, develop some more relationships with talking to people about movies that probably hadn't thought about you as a movie. I don't want to say critic, just
a connoisseur, I guess.
Yeah.
And risk of sounding like a bit of a neckbeard when I use that word. But, someone who loves to dabble in the art of film. And I feel like this podcast specifically, and like us watching all the movies that we have, has helped me feel more confident in my ability to talk to other people about movies.
Yes.
And just art in general and thinking about it in a critical way. And I like that we can both have that sort of thing going for us, because we've been, not just with the podcast, but we've been talking about movies for 4 years probably.
Oh yeah,
close to that.
Yes.
Like even before we started this, we would just meet up every other week at a restaurant and just shoot the shit about whatever. I mean, we're really not doing anything too different from what we used to do. It's just that we're no longer getting food. We're sitting in front of microphones.
I was about to say, it's one of those things where well, at the place that we both used to work, won't be named, no plug there.
Anti-plug.
Yeah, but I mean, it was one of the things that we both enjoy talking about, and there was some good resonation between what each of us would say, and we both made each other think, and there was good. It's one of those things where you find someone that it's good to talk with about, things, and that's what I mean. That's really how it started with the movies, And now you're right. I mean, we're just doing it in a different venue.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna mention this because last week, or I guess not last week, but like 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that right before we started recording, you were like, "All right, time to get into character," just that sort of thing.
Yes.
And it kind of resonated with me a little bit, just the different way we kind of present ourselves when we're recording versus like when we're just shooting the shit outside of it. And I wanted to ask you if you feel almost the same way I do about it. Is like, do you almost feel like maybe not an obligation, but like a sense of, I have to like amp myself up a little bit in order to record?
I was about to say, I won't lie. I like to do an energy drink before we go.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say like it's time to get in a character, I think it's more so I don't want to seem that we come off as completely different, because I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No, not at all.
You know, I think it's more so in terms of, all right, like we've done a little bit of research, we've watched these things, you've developed some thoughts, like get into that mode of we're talking about movies for 2 hours. So it is a little different as opposed to just being at like a dinner or just hanging out, you know?
Yeah, because like there's a weird notion of the idea of people listening to this. So I have to make sure that I say the right thing and mean what I mean, and try to be as accurate to the conversation as possible. Because if I slip up and make a mistake, it's like, oh boy, you're not the only one listening to me make this mistake.
Yeah,
like, it's many other people doing it.
I guess I'm not too. I don't ever get that. I never get too concerned with that aspect. I've said some things on here that I don't remember saying sometimes, and people will call me out.
Oh, same. I barely remember a lot of the stuff that I say.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if I said it, I meant it. Yeah, so I don't. It's it's more so of just like making sure my opinion gets across, and that there are times where I feel like there are movies that are unjustly dignified, like in a wrong way, you know. So it's making sure that it comes across if people are listening. It's like, check this film out, because it's like, don't just take away what you've heard from other people. You know, I like to make sure that while you're listening to our opinion, develop one for yourself, because once you do that and you watch a film, I mean, it opens you up to a lot more talking points than just what mouth breathers do when they just take it in. You know, fucking sit there, let it go into their brain. Don't soak any of it up. Don't marinate at all, and just walk away. I mean, that's why you've got a lot of people that watch a lot of bad films and just don't care, because it's more so like, you know, just how do I pass time as opposed to critically thinking about something.
Yeah.
And the two movies we're going to talk about today aren't very critically thinking movies.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If we're going to sit here and have a discussion about it, and it's going to be fun, and it's opened me up. I mean, me and my brother have been talking 2 days in a row about one of the films, you know? And
I can maybe guess which one.
You might be able to, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I specifically worry about sometimes is, especially when I am in like recording mode, air quotes, is that I never want to feel like I'm not being myself or being disingenuous in any way with the way I present myself or the way I talk about certain things, because there is some like level of like a heightened sense of self when I do record, I feel like, and especially when I make like the solo videos or something like that to put on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I always want to make sure that I'm being authentic. So.
Oh yeah, I think you are, at least.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And if Mac Parker is one thing, he is authentic.
Yes. That's what I was about to say. You pretty much get the same me as if we were talking somewhere. I mean, it's like both of us, you know?
Yeah.
You just do a better job of being like the host of the podcast.
I don't know about that.
I will say that.
Well, I want to mention, too, when we record on days where I don't work, I feel like I'm better able to contribute to conversations and to think about what I'm going to say in the next sentence versus when I do work, because I feel very tired. I don't have as much energy. I'm working off much less sleep.
Well, now you know how actors feel, dude.
I know, right?
Especially Kilmer and Sizemore.
Speaking of actors, that's a good segue into a news story that I want to cover. So a few episodes ago, we talked about the writer's strike and how we were going to see where that was going to progress into. Well, the strike is still going, and not only is it still going, the SAG union has decided to join the WGA, the Writers Guild of America. Right. So SAG being the Screen Actors Guild.
Yes.
And basically what that means is most television and movie actors are a part of that guild. And because they've agreed to also go on strike with the WGA, that means that a lot of movie productions are going to be put on hold. Movies will still get released if they had been filmed and edited and all that stuff. Like post-production's pretty much done.
Yeah.
But that means that actors are unable to do press events for movies. They can't do interviews. They can't attend premieres for films. And they can't even do things outside of movie and film that would qualify as like media entertainment. For example, like the guys on Always Sunny. They have a podcast called the Always Sunny Podcast.
Right.
And they can't do their podcast, even if it's just them, like independent of FX or whatever studio they have that's head of Always Sunny,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
They can't even do that because mostly it's a solidarity thing, but also because they're a part of the union and they don't want to break the union rules.
Right.
So once the union agrees to the strike, a lot of actors, even if they don't fully agree with what's going on with the strike, which I don't know why they wouldn't, because...
Well, that's their... Cranston said it best on a podcast one time. He's like, you get a good writer, it's like giddy up.
Right.
And they're probably like, all right, you know.
And I remember that him saying that exact same thing. So
Yeah.
I don't doubt that most actors wouldn't disagree with the WGA and like why they're striking. Like I think they would agree with them and like stand with them in solidarity. So it makes sense that they're also striking, kind of showing those studios, hey, you can't really treat these people unfairly and not have consequences for this amount of time.
Yeah.
And also one thing that we didn't mention before too is not only are the streaming service revenues like a big part of that, but also there's a lot of concern with AI and ChatGPT and the thought of writers being replaced by AI instead of just being used as a tool for them. Mm-hmm. So that's a whole big concern. So that's a big development with it. And the Studios Guild, I forget exactly what they're called. It's like some acronym. They are, you know, they say they're open to negotiations and to ending the strike, but it's still going on. So I guess we'll see where it goes.
I was about to say, I bet you what will happen is some studio, probably not a major one, because they probably got enough things like lined up to last like X amount of time. Mm-hmm. You know, it's even you know, the big thing would probably be when the bubble hits of the difference between writers and actors not doing anything versus when they get kind of close to, all right, we have to have that next film that is in production lined up to go out. Mm-hmm. That's that they have that buffer time to figure it out. So I bet you like a mid-tier studio company tests AI with ChatGPT or whatever and comes up with some script and finds some actors that aren't a part of the guild, you know, and they might figure out, all right, how can we get these things out? We'll build, because, you know, I mean, it's like actors too. You got to think it's kind of like any sort of talent line coming through. Like there's another set ready to come up that they can pluck from. Now, are they going to be as recognizable? No, but that's how you get names out there. I mean, a lot of times when people start out, you know, you don't just get thrust into a big role, but this could happen. And if they see some success with this, that's when you'll probably see, all right, you know, those negotiations break down, or some of the talent between the writers and the actors having to take a step back, or not take a step back, but rethink negotiations, you know?
Yeah, and we're kind of already seeing some of that with, there was one movie studio, I forget what it was, I think it might have been Warner Brothers, but I'm not 100%, where they had mentioned that they're already starting to implement AI technology when it comes to extras and background actors, or they're at least wanting to. I don't know if you read about that.
A little bit. That was one of the, I read that Cillian Murphy and Margot Robbie both stepped out of their premieres.
Yeah,
they walked away from it. Like they showed up and then walked, like went away. I don't know.
I think they showed up, they stayed for an hour, and then they pretty much left when the time for the strike. Yeah, when it came into effect. Yep. So they just left when that time came.
Yeah. So I've seen a little bit that they were trying to implement that stuff. It makes it's peculiar because I've seen some of the AI stuff hit with some of the. Like at Tom Cruise, there was like one short reel that I saw that had Tom Cruise, and it sounded like Tom Cruise, looked like Tom Cruise, and he was doing a infomercial thing with like some, degreaser. Yeah. And it was like 30 seconds, but I'm like, holy shit, like this is. But then it gets into name, image, and likeness. Like at what point is it where that's not Tom Cruise, but it is Tom Cruise? Yeah. So
it's one of those things where AI is still like, it's very new, at least with the way that it's being implemented. And there's stuff about it that's still janky. You can still tell a lot of it is AI, but it'll have to reach a point where consumers have to be in charge of what they decide they value. So, for example, if I watch a movie and I think, oh, that was a decent movie, you know, that was okay, like kind of cookie cutter, but it was well executed for the most part. And then someone comes up to me and says, hey, no humans were involved in making this movie. This movie was AI generated. Mm-hmm. I can have the absolute right to sit back and say, well, I don't like this movie anymore because now I know that this wasn't made by people and I want to consume something that was made by a human being, not something that was made by a machine and a soulless studio, which, I mean, you could argue that some of the movies we get now are kind of that similar ilk.
That's where you're going to get into some of that fine line shit.
Right, but I think when it comes down to consumer responsibility, I think that a lot of what's going to happen is that people are just going to have to decide what they want for themselves. And hopefully the market will speak to that, and whatever happens for the best. But it's kind of early to tell with that sort of stuff right now. So we'll see where it goes.
At the end of the day, you have I think the problem that's going to happen with it is that you're going to have human reactions, human interactions, and maybe if there's enough data points plugged into some fucking computer, they could create that emotion to have it switch over. But I just don't know if you'd have that. So I think what you'd have is a pretty stale movie.
Exactly.
You know, and honestly, we just watched two movies that if you told me they were AI generated with the actors, I'd probably believe it. So like, you know, like that's what you'll see. And that's what I think's going to happen is like talent's talent. You know, you can't replace it. Now, the writing with the thoughts and the creativity, like that's why I get a little nervous because I've read some of the interactions on Chat GPT, and there was one that I read that was just a guy that wanted to say that the lottery was created to catch time travelers. And the thing created an article. It was like it was like 6 paragraphs that I read through, or probably 2 paragraphs. But I was like, oh wow, like that's interesting.
Yeah,
you know, and that's where you kind of run with it. Is like, let's take some of these ideas. Like let's make a movie about the lottery was created to catch time travelers. You might be able to get the big points of that created by the computer, but like the filler stuff, how would humans react to that?
Yeah, like characterizations, character development.
That's what's going to be
human emotion.
Exactly, because that's one of the things where, because of variability of life and human interactions, where it just depends on your emotions and where you're at, and you could plug in a million different things, but like if Randy has a fucking idea where he wants to, you know, like I'm pissed off, he might get an epiphany 2 seconds later of, you know what, I've done this in the past, I need to grow from this, need to learn, step away, cool down, right? But on a computer, it might say Randy's pissed off, he stays pissed off. So that's what you lose with some of the stuff. So it'll be interesting, and I think it really does, like you said, consumers consuming. You know, it's going to really be up to us. And I think my fear is more so that we have people that really could care less about human emotions in some of the films.
That's the thing where you get into like the sort of murkiness of it. And we kind of alluded to it earlier where like it kind of feels like some of the movies coming out might be AI generated and are just a product of a soulless corporation, where some of those movies do make money, but I think this year specifically, we're starting to see that kind of falter a little bit because you got movies like Indiana Jones that are fucking tanking. You've got Pixar's Elemental, which didn't make nearly as much money as they wanted. Fucking Black Adam, The Flash. Like, you've got all these like different soulless corporate studio head movies that don't feel like they have a voice behind them, and they're not making money.
You know what it will turn into is the middling tier. The ones that aren't successful or ones that want to go into like cost effectiveness, DC maybe, they'll find ways to incorporate AI. They'll deal with the backlash of actors not wanting to work from them, knowing that they cited on going with, you know, the cheap way out. And then you'll have your big studios that can afford to get the big names they'll pay up to have those big names, and that's why they'll stay up there. I mean, this really could be a win for actors, because I mean, if you get into cost effective mode, now Brad Pitt's name goes into demand, right? Because there's less people in the market to say, hey, I want Brad Pitt, so he's got less people to well, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be the other way around. No, I don't know, because I think if
I kind of get what you mean. It's like the idea that a real actor and a real voice behind the movie almost becomes a commodity in a sense.
Exactly. Like and now it's not 4 different studios trying to compete for him. Now you got 2. So the actor has a little bit more leverage on choosing what he wants, because and honestly, I mean, if you're a big name actor, you might be a higher commodity, draw more money than other people, and you might get it. I mean, it's kind of like why some of these films in the 2000s got made.
Yeah.
It was just because we have to get a name attached to it. You know, I don't know if that's where we're at now. I think there's so much media out there, and that's why you'll probably see a little bit of both. In my opinion, you'll find that the studios that are willing to shave off some bucks and deal with some of the shittier stuff, and they'll reach more eyes, but they won't draw in a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know?
And you still got like a good amount of people who want like a director's voice specifically behind a movie. Like you've got people who are into Quentin Tarantino and James Cameron, fucking Steven Spielberg, like these big name directors that, you know, if a studio implements AI, you're not really going to have much in the way of a director's voice in that movie. And I think a lot of people do enjoy those movies because they have that name behind them.
Yes. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think that we'll see. I mean, I think there's going to be I think what this will do is break up a lot of I think of some of the stuff that we're seeing and really kind of silo some of these projects or these films, and you'll know who's behind. You know, hey, we just like the big ideas from ChatGPT, and then we have some guys come in and fill up the script, you know, and you'll be able to tell with that stuff versus someone that comes in and sits down and spends 2 months writing something or a month writing it, and
yeah,
you know, our passion projects behind directors. Because I mean, the other thing too is you're going to have directors that are going to want to work with guys that are talented, and I mean, like think about like if this does kind of create a rift. Imagine being a director that's like, I'm going to go with the AI side and deal with like that stuff and not have as many extras, and we can get these guys in here. Actors are going to know. Screenwriters are going to know. And you might not want to attach yourself with his name knowing the antics or what he stands for or what he's about. You know, and it'll be curious because I think eventually down the road there will be some sort of common ground.
Yeah.
Usually what happens out of these things.
And I don't want to like give people the impression that I'm like 100% anti-AI or anything like that, because I think it could be used as a very useful tool for people who either have like a disability, like someone with dyslexia, if they have an AI assist tool that helps them fill in the gaps of like what they might have missed or different letters that they could have implemented that were wrong. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Or like even from the standpoint of like AI possibly fixing continuity errors in the script that you wrote. So like it can go through like a complete script that you have written up, and it can point to this and say like, hey, this contradicts what happens earlier in the story. Do you want to fix this? And you can go back and fix it. I think that would be a really useful tool for screenwriters and people who want to get into that necessarily don't have like the capability or, you know, just helping them out in general to ensure a better quality product.
100%.
But the issue does come when studios want to use AI to just replace writers altogether and just take the human element out of it.
You know, it could be something that's been coming to a head. Everyone, I mean, I don't want to say everyone's seen it, but now it's been thrust here, so I'm sure it's probably actually good timing because I feel like the Screenwriters Guild, right? Like their contract just kind of came up, their collective bargaining agreement. Like this wasn't a strike because AI came in. It just happens to be fortunate timing, right?
That was part of the initial arguments that they had. A lot of it did have to do mostly with streaming and the kind of residuals that they weren't receiving because of that sort of thing, but AI was tossed in there.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and I feel like now that it's becoming more prevalent, actors are starting to kind of see it. Because I read, you got a lot of people that get paid that are career jobbers. You know, they live out there and they have with their apartment, and probably not Malibu, but somewhere decent, and they go to set and they're in the background, and that's how they make their living, hoping one day they get their name called. And imagine you walk in there one day and it's like, hey Gary, like, don't need you. And all of a sudden you're getting replaced. Like, you know, I could see them, the ones that are above them, understanding that plight. Now, do I necessarily know? No, I don't know. Because I also had the thought that Cillian Murphy realizes that you can create, all he has to do is read off some lines and they can photo generate his whole body into something like he might just be like, yeah, as long as you give me the money, I'm good.
Yeah.
And who knows? So
who knows? I think we're in a good position to kind of see how it all plays out.
100. Yes, I'm curious. There's a lot of things that are going to happen with where we're going at. I mean, Terminator. We're getting closer and closer to Terminator.
Well, speaking of sci-fi, that's a good segue.
I think so.
Into one of the movies we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to talk about Mission to Mars first.
Yeah, that one. Yes.
So let me look up some info about that. Did you want to do this or did you want to do Red Planet? It literally doesn't matter to me which one.
It doesn't. I'm going to do Mission to Mars.
Okay.
I will do Mission to Mars. I was kind of thinking I was going to do Red Planet, but the more I think about it, the more I've realized that this all kicked off with Mission to Mars.
It did.
So I mean, yeah, I'll talk about that. I had so in case anyone's wondering, I had a business trip. I went down to Chattanooga and I was on a plane ride and trying to fit like those empty calorie movies that you talk about, something that just can ease my anxiety a little bit being on a plane. And I thought, oh, perfect. I haven't seen this one. I don't remember what it's about. I can't remember because there's been 4 freaking Mars movies that came out. Couldn't remember what one it was. And I was like, I gotta watch this again. Don't remember anything about it. So this would be nice. Childhood movie. I know it's an easy one to take down. And it blew me away. So Mission to Mars came out in the year 2000, directed, and I couldn't fucking believe this, directed by Brian De Palma.
I know. I looked at his name and I was like, he's very familiar sounding. What did he do? And of course, like Scarface, the first Mission Impossible. Like this dude has made a name for himself.
Yeah. Yes. Wild. I didn't know that the first time I saw it. I didn't even look at the director. I was like, whatever. I just watched it. I was more in awe of what I just watched.
Right.
And when I rewatched it, I saw De Palma pop up. I was like, no fucking way. Mm-hmm. Starring Gary Sinise as Jim McConnell, Tim Robbins as Woody Blake, Don Cheadle as Luke Graham, Connie Nielsen's Terry Fisher, and Jerry O'Connell as Phil Olmeyer. The movie
Olmeyer.
So the movie is essentially about it opens up at the party and it's kind of silly. They got some really zany music going on. It seems like everyone's having kind of a good time. There's some really cheesy dialogue going along. Some real weird like characterization or character development.
There's a lot
right at the beginning.
It's very expositionary.
In a weird way.
Yeah.
Not in a very organic way.
Not for like the plot, but just like the characters.
Yeah, you're supposed to get an idea about who they are and their friendships and all that, and you really.
It's like, oh, Jim, I'm sorry about your wife.
Yeah.
Oh, cancer sucks, man.
Yeah, I'm so sorry she died a year and a half ago. God, she would have loved to be there because you guys started this thing.
Sucks they had to pull you off the mission, man. I would have liked to have you in my right seat.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, I guess we're just going into it. And then, Gary Sinise is just staring off into the distance about, like, trying to cry, can't cry. And they're like, he looks affected, but I don't know if he's, like, ready to just punch someone or, anyway, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So they get to Mars, you get to Mars, and there is an exciting incident right there. Boom, huge storms going on. This wind tunnel comes up. It's killing people left and right. And now there's a rescue mission to Mars in which Jim McConnell and Woody Blake are heading, and they got to get to Mars to save their buddy Luke. And it just spirals from there. And yeah.
Quite literally spirals from there.
Oh, my God.
Spoilers for Mission to Mars. Tim Robbins' body spiraling towards Mars halfway through the movie. One thing I could not believe about this movie, besides like the fucking exposition and besides like the janky ass character development or lack thereof, I should say, is the fact that they don't get to Mars. They technically don't get to Mars until like 75% through the movie.
Dude, it's the third act. It's the weirdest. I didn't realize it the first time. So it really, they land on Mars and they kind of black out and they come to, right? And it's like the start of the third act. So they run in, they see Don. I didn't pick up on it until I recently just watched it, and I was like, what the fuck? and not to say, anytime that new acts are starting, they don't necessarily transition or go to black, right? But there's normally like an event happens that kind of signifies, all right, some time's passed, we're on to the next, act.
Yeah.
So they get into the thing. They start talking with Luke. He's gone insane. He's only been on Mars for 4 months, but it's enough to, give you a split personality. They figure it out. They all kind of come down. They let him know what's going on. They go to black again to come back because he's shaved.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. I feel like we may be getting ahead of ourselves, but I do want to talk about that. How, like, the sense of time in this movie is so fucking weird because
very bizarre.
I thought, like you said, I thought it was like only 4 months, but then I thought they said something about like it being a year. Like he said, "Oh, I've been trapped on Mars for a year" or something like that.
Could have been. I got some interesting facts about all this that will tie in because both movies, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's very fucking weird and cliche how he's been gone for a period of time, stranded, and the automatic thing for his character to become is crazy fucking hermit that would just attack anything that comes to him.
I found this website doing my research. And so I got some of this stuff pulled up. I wanted to save it just in case we started talking about it.
Yeah, I took a lot of notes.
So it's like some sort of it's really fun because what it is, it's bad astronomy. So it's like what they do is they kind of watch these science films and they'll poke holes at a lot of the plot devices or what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of shit in here where it's like bad.
Oh yeah, this movie would get an F on the accuracy scale.
Well, so one of the guys was like, and it's not that psychology fits in, but they're like, it's pretty implausible that this guy spent 4 months. The astronauts are designed to be like in solitary confinement. Like they really work on the psychology behind that in the training, so that they can deal with events that were to happen, that they could go about this, sedentary lifestyle, if you will, or rudimentary lifestyle where it's just kind of every day I got to do one task. And The Martian does a great job of that when Matt Damon's on there.
Yeah.
So they're like, for him to go insane over just this brief period of time to fucking forget like everything is insane. Not only that, I had an issue with Sinise, who's trying to talk him out of it, going, "You read Treasure Island to your son." At no point does Luke tell him he's reading Treasure Island. We as the audience know.
Right.
Because he does the weird, like, "I'll still read to you, bud." Like, "I'll read every day and you read every day and then we're still good, right?" "Yeah, Dad." Who the fuck knows that Sinise knows that?
Right.
Like, what guy comes up and tells the other guy, "Hey, I'm reading this book to my kid"?
I can't believe you're not going to believe what I'm reading to my kid.
And then Sinise just
fucking weird.
He just drops it on him, and that's what he goes, "Oh, that's right, I do have a family." And I'm like,
"Oh yeah, I guess I'm not crazy anymore."
Wow, you really do know me.
Yeah.
Now, there's Terry and there's Phil. Where's Woody?
What fucks me up is like I guess they could have maybe, like you said, like training as an astronaut, he's supposed to be, strong-willed, mentally capable. He's supposed to be able to like keep his mental faculties in a way that most normal people maybe not necessarily like would have been able to, But what fucks me up is at the beginning of the movie when they're on Mars and they see the fucking tornado monster attacking everybody. Don Cheadle looks like the most emotionalist fucking thing in that whole scene.
They all do.
He looks mildly annoyed that his fucking teammates are just getting murdered by this fucking alien tornado fucking Mars thing.
He's with two Russian people who God knows what. You got the one chick who it was there was the other guy that was there, the one that was trying to get laid before he went, and then you had the wife and the husband, the Russian
like
scientist,
the hot shot guy.
Yeah, and Cheadle's just watching it.
He just looked so confused the entire time. He didn't look scared or frightened at all. He was just like, "What? What is this?" He looked like you asked him like what his Bible retreat was like, and he doesn't remember a thing about it.
He's just getting covered with rocks, just staring at it, and like complete like. Not even like horrified. Like you'd think that you'd be in a little bit of shock or like, no, what? Like you can't process it. Like he's kind of processing it, but it's more in the scientific nature. Like not like, oh hey everyone, I'm here with is dying, but more so like, how is this happening?
Yeah, he looks more like he's reacting to watching an old lady take a shit in the middle of a Walmart than he is watching his crew members die.
Yeah, like you're kind of like he'd be like, all right, I know what's going on, but like I can't believe no one's stopping this. You know, like yes, there. All of the acting was horrible.
Oh, Tim Robbins stood out to me as like one of the worst ones in this movie.
Wow, and it's funny because I was like, he's the only one that actually has any like pizzazz around it. Actually, no, I take that back. Jerry O'Connell, easily the best actor in this film.
I believe him as the character that they assigned to him. You know, he like the character he's portraying. I believe him as that character because he's like kind of the bumbling, like almost comic relief sidekick character.
Exactly, that was his career at that time.
Yeah,
you know, and he took this film on because he watched all of De Palma's films in film school. So he loved his work, and he pitched himself to be in that role.
What a movie to pick that he did.
Well, you can't. I mean. I keep making this joke. I think it's really funny. I'd love to be a fly on the wall and see the first actor that got done with that script reading and see their face. It probably would have looked a lot like Don Cheadle's in that Storm. Like, imagine you getting done reading that script. Like, how could you possibly go like, you know what? This is going to be good.
Well, maybe it was one of those cases where they sat down, they read the script, and they said, all right, the dialogue isn't good. The fucking characters are all like one-dimensional, fucking
not even
like wet blankets.
Yeah,
like it's so cliche. But maybe the special effects will be good. Maybe visually this movie will look great, right? Because a lot of the time when they make movies like this, especially back in the early 2000s, they have no fucking clue what the movie's going to look like when it's done.
True.
But then this movie is made, and oh boy,
yeah,
that scene when I think it's Jerry O'Connell, he gets like the like rock through his hand or something, or like it's a
the meteorite.
The meteorite, yeah.
The micro meteorite.
Yeah, when it like breaks through his hand and the blood is starting to flow everywhere. I'm like, oh, this is going to be this kind of movie, isn't it? The special effects are on this level.
Which is it's
weird to say that like something like The Phantom Menace looks better than a movie that came out 4 years after it.
I think they're tied.
Still, though, it's fucking inexcusable despite the age. It's like it's not good.
No. I'm not saying it's good at all. And when I say it's tied, they're both zeros. Or like, you know, at least The Phantom Menace is in some made up world.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, like it's like, all right, you'll never see these things in real life.
Yeah.
You know, this is all creation. Like that's awesome. I can edit a little disorder, whatever. You know, like this is like we're trying to mimic shit. It's like no. No, that was one of the things that I read too. Is that that micrometer that size wouldn't have penetrated the Hubble or whatever the hub that they were in. Mm-hmm. That actually there should be more of a fear that the heat caused with the friction hitting at that speed would actually like melt the steel or ionize. I can't remember the exact saying. Like make it explode. Like there was a very real. There was like it wouldn't go through it. There's actually a very real chance so that it would have hit it and did something to the metal to make it kind of combust.
Yeah,
you know. So that was another thing that I read that was like off. This movie, no one did any research like with NASA besides the suits.
Yeah.
Any of the science behind it to figure it out. Like they created artificial gravity, right? And the guy like on here, I'm not going to go through and read this stuff, but it's Bad Astronomy, Mission to Mars. If you want to read through some of the facts and like head scratching moments about everything that happened in this thing, because literally as soon as they get into space, when they touch down on Mars, everything's wrong. The creation of artificial gravity, not even close. You couldn't possibly do that. That wasn't there.
And so, this isn't the only movie to do that either.
Well. When we get to Red Planet, you'll be shocked.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. Terrible. If we're talking about bad acting, because I think maybe this is the first one we're on right now. How about like Woody just getting? So first off, let me just say this.
Woody's Tim Robbins, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are like two scenes in this thing that I like that really. This is one of the more bizarre movies to me that I've seen because it goes from kind of being like really wacky and zany to horror. Because like if you're just watching after that for the opening, you know, exposition, right, when the first attack happens, let's say they don't show the face either, which is kind of like one of my gripes. You don't know what you're in for. It is a rescue mission, but what's on Mars?
Yeah, there's a mystery behind it, at least.
Yeah, and like that's kind of the issue I have with the face, because they show the face, and then there's like some really mysterious music that plays, and I'm like, this is like...
Yeah, because then you know that, otherworldly forces are at play rather than like a native life force to Mars or
there's
something.
There's got to be something out there that's hubbed in that thing or living in that thing.
Yeah, there's the notion of intelligent life, whereas like if they didn't show it, you could still argue with it being like just a creature movie.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. See, that spiral thing, whatever the fuck it was, I mean, that you don't know what it is, and it attacks them.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's kind of like, I don't know if this is just going to be Mars itself. Maybe they could make Mars, whatever. There's more mystery involved than they show the face. Because at that point, you go, other life, aliens, don't know where we're getting to. And then the problem, and then it switches over into Apollo 13, which I really liked. As soon as the thing starts going, the asteroid thing hits and they're just on this time crunch. Like, that's the only suspense in the film, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, to Woody going to whatever, and then they land, and then it turns into some really weird philosophical bullshit.
It almost tries... And I wrote this down a few times in my notes, like in a few different instances. It almost feels like they're trying to implement some things that were really well done in 2001.
Yes.
Like, especially with the end with, like, sort of liminal space shit and, like, the origins of, like, humanity and, like, the expanding life force that used to inhabit Mars, but then the disaster that occurred. It's, like, this weird idea that it feels like it's trying to be 2001.
So... the funny thing about that is Arthur C. Clarke wrote a short story called The Sentinel. All right, and it's about this beacon on the moon, and an astronaut goes there and finds a Sentinel. And what it would do is it was broadcasting radio waves or whatever it was out into the unknown. And the idea behind the Sentinel was that when advanced life found the Sentinel and they take it down, establishing that it's a defense mechanism, and that whenever that radio signal would stop, the creatures, they'd realize, all right, we're on to the next wave of, evolution of intelligence, right? Not necessarily knowing what it is, because it's not like, it's humans. And that's where Arthur C. Clarke got with Stanley Kubrick. And that's where the idea of the monolith hit. Mm-hmm. Is that, hey, the monolith is going to be, we'll have it continue out through time. So it's kind of like a sentinel in and of itself, but when we get to certain points, you discover the monolith again. It signifies advancement of evolution and an advancement of intelligence.
Yeah, a lot of what we talked about in our 2001 discussion.
So what Mission to Mars does is essentially takes that short story and puts the Sentinel onto Mars. So, I mean, it's funny that we just talked about 2001, but these two movies directly, I would say directly tie in. Because you'll have to look up the Sentinel when you get the chance, but...
I will.
If you think about it, when they get onto Mars, they say, hey, this thing's emitting radio beacon or whatever, and they figure out the code to enter the thing. They're acting like but it turns out it's only a defense mechanism to keep intruders away instead of opening up, so that they don't take it out. They discover, that they're the next step of evolution or human intelligence get in. And one of the things that makes you wonder, though, is this thing attacked the astronauts when they got to Mars. And if it's directly there to signify the advancement of knowledge, why obviously they got to the fucking Mars, like, right? Isn't that like, so that's one of the plot holes that like kind of immediately pop up of
why is it immediately feral, and why does it like automatically distrust these people even though it had like no indication to distrust them whatsoever?
Right,
you're right about that, absolutely.
Yes. So
it feels like this movie specifically just is more so ripping off a lot of what made 2001 the film, like just like with the filmmaking and the way the ship looked and like the ideas that it had with the end and like the last act of the film.
Iconic scene of them dancing, Van Halen, which was a fantastic shot, but the camera rotating around trying to signify that there's low gravity or zero gravity.
Yeah, with like the set that's shaped like a wheel or whatever. Yep. Very reminiscent of that. It feels like it wants to implement those elements that made 2001 special, but put it in a movie that most general audiences might like Like, simplify the characters, make it very straightforward, like super digestible and simple and not complex at all.
So one of the things that I didn't realize, and I'm fairly certain, is that Disney has a stake in this movie, and they base this movie off of one of their theme park rides.
Okay.
So Disney obviously had a hand in this, and what happened was, I don't know if you read that Gore Verbinski he was a director on it. They got through a certain portion of it, and he stepped out because it was under budgeted.
I read that Brian De Palma took over after another director stepped away, but I didn't see what director it was.
Yeah, it was
That's
him.
interesting.
And so they went through a couple rewrites, which I don't know if I couldn't tell you how the fuck this writing is so fucking bad. Like, I took offense after a certain point.
It was like a comedy at points, right?
It was so... Dude, I've never
It's such a weird fucking tone for this movie. Like, it's all over the place.
So, that's what I'm saying. Tones everywhere. This is a PG film, so I don't know if this guy's, like, trying to, like... We got to remember that there's kid watching this.
Is it PG, despite the fact that you see a human body just blow up?
Yeah.
Like, limbs flying everywhere in the tornado?
Let me double check this, because I've read up on this quite a bit, because I'm like, why did this, like...
That'd be so fucking wacky.
Yeah,
if it was actually PG.
So, like, one of the first things I read was, like, a Christian post. You know, and it was like, is this one good to show to your kids, like, from Christian moms or something like that?
A parental guidance thing?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that they brought up. They actually said that they were more concerned that they were using Jesus's name in vain in this thing. They said it 3 or 4 different times, and that's what bugged them more so. Yeah, and they said that between that and
the idea of evolution being changed, I'm sure.
They kind of scoffed at it. It was like, whatever, you know. I mean,
Interesting.
They don't do it that well to make you think that this actually happened. They're actually probably pretty pleased that that's how this movie went.
That's so weird to me, because I feel like if you're a Christian and watching this movie and you don't believe in evolution or whatever, like you believe in creationism, then I don't think you're going to watch this movie and like it very much. Just because of how they present the ideas at the end of human origin. You know,
2000 PG.
That's so fucking weird.
Dude, it's a Disney. I don't know how much of a stake Disney had in it, and I didn't realize, like, so the props in this thing, like, Disney used some of the props that they created, you know, from this, and it said, like, from what I read, that there's a theme park ride or something.
Okay,
involved.
I gotcha.
So it's like Pirates of the Caribbean before that one got popular.
I was gonna say Pirates of the Caribbean in space, basically.
Exactly, and that's why probably a mess. And there's probably the studios who's ever tied into it buried everything that freaking happened. Like, I wish this one would be another interesting one, like that Island of Dr. Moreau, to see like what happened from the get. You know. Not only that, they fought well, and I don't know if some of the actors left too when Gore left. Like, I don't know if they had to recast or I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gary Sinise is way over his head. My favorite, like, so yours was Don Cheadle.
My favorite actor?
No. Like, moment of, oh man, this is really bad.
Oh no. That was one of them. But one of my favorite moments that I was gonna bring up, and I'm glad that you asked me this, is It really just felt like a comedy in this moment when they're all tethered together and they're floating through space, and Tim Robbins is like floating way ahead of everybody else. Like he's facing them, falling back towards Mars.
Yep.
And he's like, shit, I'm gonna die. And then his like wife or girlfriend in the movie, wife,
yeah,
Terry, like shoots herself out there, can only meet him a certain way because she's gonna run out of fuel and she wouldn't be able to make it back. So then she's like, wait a minute, I have this idea. So then she like gets the tether and like shoots it out at him, and it barely fucking reaches it. Like it barely doesn't reach him at all. And he's like, oh no. And I just started fucking laughing hysterically at that.
Oh, you really could not care about them then.
I was like, is this it's presented like a comedy. It's like something the Three Stooges would do if they were in space. It's like, oh no, I can't reach you.
What else what else are you supposed to do?
I don't. It's the way it was just presented was really funny to me. And then there was also a moment earlier. This is like kind of a smaller thing. It was before the tornado attack scene.
Yeah.
When they're like looking at the cliffside and they like start hearing noise or something, and one of them goes, "What happened?" And then it whip pans to another astronaut, and they're like, "I don't know." And then it whip pans back. It felt like something out of a Wes Anderson movie. Like
where they're doing their like really witty dialogue, trying to keep up back and forth.
It's so weird how it's filmed because it feels so out of place in terms of what the rest of the filmmaking of the movie, and it's just this random whip pan scene that they do one time, and then they never do it again. It's like it's such weird filmmaking and editing and cinematography in this movie.
I actually wasn't. I didn't have too much of a beef with some of the shots. Like, obviously, I thought the set design was good. The space station and the suits were pretty good. I mean, that was probably about the only thing they nailed. I guess I don't know about Mars. They made it somewhat believable, but they don't really. Dude, it's a mission to Mars. They don't even spend time on Mars.
Yeah, they barely spend time on Mars. Like we said earlier, it's like 70% of the movie until they actually get to the fucking planet. And then they get to the planet, and then like most of the time they're
in the hub or they're in the space thing.
Yeah, they're in like the white like liminal space, like 2001 looking area. And I didn't have a problem with it, but they wanted to go with a minimalistic approach. Mm-hmm. That was it. But it reminded me a lot of the ending of 2000. Like as soon as I got in there, I was like, that's got to be an homage, right? Like it's either an homage or a ripoff. Like they just saw 2001. We're like, we can do that.
Yeah. Well, God only knows what De Palma walked into.
Right.
Who knows? That'd be one I'd be curious about. There's a documentary that I was talking to my brother about. It's just called De Palma. And he talks about all his films, and they get to this one, and he goes, "What can I say? I was just trying to be ambitious," and went on to the next.
I mean, hey, at least he was honest.
It's a 100-minute documentary with 95 minutes on other films.
That is something that this movie has going for it a little bit compared to something like Red Planet, where it's so fucking out there, and it's so weird with how it presents the plot and the tone and everything going on.
Dude,
that I kind of commend it a little bit for it. Like, it's so unpredictable. You cannot predict where this movie's going. Yeah, like, I had so much fun just laughing at this thing.
That's what that's the enjoyment you get. Like, like you're not even taking it seriously. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, you with your writing abilities and going through, like, as soon as things started happening, you got to be scratching your head. And, like, after the first 20 minutes, you got to be like, these characters suck.
Well, I was like, when are they going to get to Mars? Like, when are they going to get to the planet that's in the title of the fucking movie? I was like, when is this going to take place? And then they're floating together, tethered, and they're trying to reach Tim Robbins, and they can't. And he takes his helmet off. It's like, psh. He's like,
giant mannequin Tim Robbins.
Oh my god,
that was another one too. They said that you wouldn't instantaneously freeze in space. That was what I was reading about the guy. He's like, it'd probably take an hour to just, your body's just naturally heated. It's not going to completely freeze.
Yeah,
So, and I don't know. At least from what I've read, being in the suit and all that shit. No, I got my bad acting moment was during that scene. Gary Sinise staring at him like, "Dear God, Woody, you're not going to make it." And then it cuts to like Terry, who's like, "Please come back." And then he goes, "No, Terry, he can't. We'd all die if we had to go get him." And he's like, "He's right, honey. I would die. Please don't come after me." It's like, "Dear God, Woody, we're going to miss you." And then, "I can get him." Terry, no. Like, holy dude, like, you guys are supposed to be best friends. You've known each other forever. Like, no one's crying, no one's freaking out, no one's like, let's run the numbers. By the way, I don't know if you saw it.
Right.
She gets out there and like zaps her way also to in space because there's no friction. You go at that pace, you're just going at that pace. You can't just stop your thrusters like that. Like, she would have to turn around and propel herself back forward just to stop, which would double down on it. They don't address that, right?
No.
It gets to a point where it says 50% jet fuel left, and then literally on her thing it says point of no return. Like, the computer fucking realizes that she plugged in all these goddamn coordinates to say, hey, if you go past this point, it's over.
Yeah, point of no return to what? Did the computer realize that Tim Robbins was that far
away?
What,
dude, I didn't pick it up the first time, and then the second time I saw it, it's like beeping, and then it just prints that off, and I was like, One, it's a computer. Who the fuck says that?
Point of no return to what? To relative to where? Like, they're continuously moving. Like, how does it pick a point of origin when everything's just constantly going?
Thank you. Like, when have you ever seen a computer just read off, hey, please stop? Like, it would, like, beep, beep, and then just say, you know, like, fuel insufficient. Like, it wouldn't read off, like, you're going to die. Like, it might as well have said that. Like, it might as well have said, you're going to die if you go one step further. Like, it could have said, dude, this fucking movie with the writing was so beat over the head. Like, I've had an issue with it, and then I saw that when I was watching it with Jasmine, and I was like, this fucking movie, like, unreal.
How dare you?
Dude, there's one point... So Sinise, for God knows what, is watching a montage of him and his wife. Don't know why.
He's watching a video of him and his wife going through pictures.
It starts off.
So it's him watching a video of them going through pictures as a group. So it's like double fucking weird. It
starts off with it being a wedding video, and then it pans back to being a video of the wedding video.
Yeah.
Which I was like, who does that? Like, that's just weird. Who's filming a house party?
Right, who's filming a house party watching everything that's been filmed from their life?
And they're doing it under the guild that it is them saying, we're going to go to Mars. We've created the first ever project to go. Like, who the fuck opens up with their wedding video to say, hey, we're going to Mars? Yeah. Like, that'd be like the diaper party and me showing you, like, my '08 high school reunion and then being like, hey guys, can you believe I made it this far?
And then I love the moment that they have where she's by herself and she's just talking about random shit like, what if, in all seriousness, I do think that there is life beyond where we are.
Life helping life. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? We just saw your wedding. Not only that,
it's so forced.
They do this thing in there where they have a green screen and it's him and his wife and it says Mars. And Tim Robbins goes, hey, look, it's Mars. And then it goes and it says Mars above him. Like, they were so afraid that people would be confused of where they're joking they're at. They had to have that line of dialogue in there to explain, don't worry, we know they're not on Mars. It's just a green screen of them on Mars in case you miss it. And then it fucking says Mars.
It's so fucking janky.
Oh, my God. Yes.
One of my favorite moments, and this was during the scene when... so the small little meteorite punctures a hole not only in Jerry O'Connell's hand, but also in Gary Sinise's helmet. So then he can't use that helmet, and they're like, you're going to have to use your backup, and he's like, no time. We got to find a way to plug this hole. So then, like, Tim Robbins is going around the ship trying to find the hole to plug. He's going around without a helmet, losing oxygen. And we established earlier in that scene that liquid, if it's loose in the ship, it'll find the vacuum point of wherever the hole is in the ship. Right. And so he takes a thing of Dr. Pepper, which I pointed at the screen and went, hey, Dr. Pepper, when he grabbed it, and he threw it at Terry, and she's like, oh, Jim. Like, he's fucking crazy and not knowing what he's doing. It's right. Like, you literally have witnessed the liquid earlier in the film going through the fucking hole that was made in the ship with the meteorite. Do you not understand what he's trying to get at?
Right.
With throwing you the liquid in that pouch for you to squeeze. Like, do you not understand where he's going with that? But I guess she decided that he was crazy, and probably from the standpoint of the screenwriters, maybe they thought, oh, she should say this because maybe she thinks he's losing it because he's, like, missing his dead wife or whatever, and he's not doing well under pressure. But it's like, that doesn't make sense when you have her experience that same thing earlier in the movie. Yeah. And it just contradicts that whole scene. Like, it's so fucking dumb. And there's a lot in this movie that's like that.
Well, yes, and he also can get his other helmet. Like, he has access to... He literally didn't do anything besides come up with the idea to squirt the Dr. Pepper, right?
Yeah.
So he could have easily swam over, got his helmet while telling her to grab the Dr. Pepper and squeeze it.
Right.
He didn't do anything besides sit there and think.
He's like, no
as
time.
As he's losing oxygen.
No time. As he, like, fucking pee-diddles around and does absolutely nothing to help his situation.
By the way, nerdy point, I read up that because of the the air pressure, or not air pressure, the temperature that Dr. Pepper wouldn't actually freeze right away. It would probably boil, and they would have saw, instead of seeing the liquid going up, it would have been the steam. Yeah. So that was another. I just really enjoyed reading these things that we have beefs with, and then reading someone that's a scientist just tear it apart. Now, granted, I'm going to keep telling you guys, check out the Bad Astronomy Mission to Mars post. Don't listen to me because I'm not going to get into it, and I'm not going to read this off. But yeah, that whole so I give it a pass though, because in terms of the movie, that's the most suspense in the whole movie. It's like that 20 minutes.
Right.
From essentially,
it's like the most tension you ever get.
Yeah, from the moment it hits to when Woody goes away. Now, granted, if you're not buying into the characters,
including the scene where Tim Robbins dies.
Yeah, I mean, if like it's I like that scene, and I thought it was sentimental. I mean, I guess I was like, it's kind of more of projecting than it actually is of just watching it. Like, not to say like you dissociated or anything like that, but like when you're watching it, you're just thinking about the characters. And if you really don't buy in, who the fuck cares?
And that was kind of my position of it,
100%.
Especially when like the way it's filmed and like the technical aspects, when it's playing like that weird fucking Castlevania ass music throughout the whole thing. With like the weird synth piano and like the
Enrico, whatever his name is, that did Once Upon a Time in the West.
Okay.
De Palma, that the famous composer, Once Upon a Time in the West, Enrico. I can't think of his name.
I got the page pulled up. Let me see.
Yeah.
Ennio Morricone.
Yeah.
If that's how you pronounce his name.
Click on his name. I think he's the one that did Once Upon a Time in the West and some of the other big like composer. Yeah,
I'll take a look while you keep going.
Yeah, no, so that was one of the things I talked about Sam too. Sam watched this film and just kind of texted me throughout the whole time watching it because he thought he might have been a little juiced to find some other things that he discovered about it, and one of the gripes that he had was the
Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, big time. I'm trying to think. He did something else that we watched that we were talking about, and I was like, I can't believe they got him to do it. And it wasn't this fucking film.
The Thing?
Maybe. Anyways, I mean, you can keep scrolling through that. I don't remember what it was, but as soon as I saw that they got him on there, I was like, wow. Like, yeah. And him and De Palma had to have been on something else where he called in a favor, and the guy's like, I'll do it for you. And then,
was it a Quentin Tarantino movie?
Yes.
Was it Kill Bill?
Might have been.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. It was.
I think it was
because I was thinking in my head Tarantino film before you mentioned that.
Okay.
I was like, I don't remember what Tarantino film we talked about because we talked about half of them.
It's funny you say that though, because I think we've only officially talked about Kill Bill.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Mick. We've only talked about 2 out of the 10 or 9. Well, if this was Mission to Mars, it'd probably be fucking half.
Right. I didn't mean to derail you.
No, you're good. So the soundtrack or the score sucks.
Oh, it's bad. It's so poorly used.
It's bizarre, right? A lot of like
it's like used in moments of tension when the music does not feel tension. Like when I'm thinking of a space movie that has tension or something, I'm thinking of like string instruments or something that you'd get from
like the industrial noises, kind of like that, like the sound that would reverberate just in space. Like it just holds that tone,
like a good
ominous
ambience to it.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where you're at, I will All Quiet on the Western Front. I think that could go in any freaking space film.
That could work.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really like those, like, not to say, like, Inception, but I do like it when there's, like, a bit of a drum and there's a bit of a bass and it kind of holds that tone. Because it also gives you the essence of being in space, where it's not just, going back and forth. I mean, if you propel something, it's going to stay at that rate. So, like, instead of having... And I don't know if he wasn't going for that. I mean, a lot of the shit he did really... I think they had to soften it up for the kids.
It must have been because, my God, it felt like I was playing Castlevania during that scene when he's trying to get oxygen and not watching a movie where astronauts are in space struggling to survive.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
It just totally took the tension out of anything that would have been there for me.
Yeah, how about the ending? They're trying to get off Mars and it's just playing this like really whimsical, mysterious music of where's Gary Sinise going? And it's like, they still haven't gotten off the fucking planet, guys.
And they keep going with it, and then they keep showing the process of him like going in the tube and like him going like, oh no, what did I get into? Like, I almost thought, oh shit, they're gonna turn this into a fucking horror movie all of a sudden, and he's gonna fucking die, and they're gonna dissect his fucking body.
Yeah, like
while
Indiana
he's in the tube.
Jones, like that. Not to give away endings or anything, but have you ever seen, the Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah.
You ever seen that?
Yeah.
You know the ending of that one with all the things happening, like you don't know what the Grail's gonna do or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's what that would have been fun if they would have went that route. Like had that like dee 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 dee, and
like
that,
his character thinks it's one thing, but then it just all of a sudden goes completely wrong. But
and
no,
that alien smiles and it's got its like teeth hanging out, and it's like, oh shit, what's happening with Sinise?
But it doesn't do that.
No, why? It can't. Well, I think it would have helped if people at the time they might have known. But if you knew this was a Disney film, do you think it changed your perspective on everything that you were watching?
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that.
Absolutely.
I read that and I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of. But it doesn't make it inexcusable. It's still bad.
No, it's still bad. It's still like a weird, poor choice. And the fact that they like keep going and showing him in the tube, and it's like, was this like one last attempt to get the audience to go like, oh, what's gonna happen here? Like, I'm unsure.
Yeah.
Try to like rile those emotional feelings. It's like, oh wow, this movie's so complex. It made me feel all these things. It's like, no, it's just fucking stupid.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
So I don't remember the ending. I was one of the guys like watching it. I thought that being out in space was pretty suspenseful. I was a little let down when they got to Cheadle, and as soon as they started getting approached in the face, I was kind of like, oh man, like where's this going? But I will say I thought there was 20 minutes left in the movie, so like. Imagine watching that and thinking like, oh, they still got to end this thing. Like something's going to happen. Like they got to show, them getting back and being like, you won't believe what happened to Jim. He discovered God or whatever, like whatever. Yeah. Right. I shit you not. I'm watching this with Jasmine, and it just does what it does. And I like, so the lovely, beautiful Jasmine never gets upset during movies. It's like, she doesn't not like things or hate things, we got done watching this and she said, I hate this movie. And I was like, funny. I was like, what? And she was like, why would you have me watch this? And I'm like, I'm being attacked. Like she never does that, And I'm like, right. What are you talking? She's like, I've never been more confused at the ending of a film that is so stupid. And I was
so fucking stupid.
I'm like in my head, I'm like, it's a PG film. It's a really easy thing just to digest. She was verbally attacking me, with how upset she was about this Disney film that we just watched.
That's funny.
Now, mind you, I'm dying laughing because I realized that the last lines in this film are, "Hey, where's Jim?" Terry getting into the thing, going, "He caught a ride." Watching it shoot up there, right? Not only that, they somehow explode with enough force to catch him or watch him zip out of there. And the last line in the film is Don Cheadle going, "Have a good ride, Jim."
Yeah.
And then it just fucking
ends. It's so fucking abrupt.
That's what I'm saying. It was like they do that and you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on. In at least in the space, in 2001, you've got the whole, what do they call that? The acid trip. He's going into
Stargate.
The Stargate. He's going into the fifth dimension. You had all that. It's literally just Cheeto going smirking have a safe ride, Jim. God, he was a good man.
It was so fucking anticlimactic. Holy shit.
Well, then it's when the fuck did Jim just become I guess he's the main character in this thing.
Yeah, I don't. It's fucking weird, and I love like I said, I love the fact that it's weird, and I love the fact that because it's so weird, there's a level of this movie that I enjoy, obviously on an ironic level, but I think
covering his tracks.
It didn't leave me bored. I can't say I was ever bored watching this movie.
Okay, so that's half the reason why I wanted to recommend it, because I don't want to cut you off. Go back.
No, you're good.
Dude, I'm telling you, I watched this thing and it ended, and I was I thought about this film and I was I shouldn't be giving this thing any fucking credit, but I was it's the weirdest, zany to horror to thriller to suspense to crime detective on the ground to philosophical whatever done.
Yeah.
You're there's a little bit of a roller coaster ride with this thing, because it's 10 minutes of, wow, that's weird. And then you got the 20 minutes. I think I already said this, 20 minutes of, like, oh shit, what's going on? To 20 minutes of, they're on a space station. Who cares? To 20 minutes of, Jesus Christ, how are they going to get to Mars? To 20 minutes of whatever they get to that climax and just like, hey, we're good. Just get done with the script.
Yeah, we don't need any falling action or any sort of resolution to anything that has happened after.
Yeah,
we just end it.
Did they solve anything? That's what I wanted to ask too, because me and my brother's like, "What do you interpret the ending of this film?" And I was like, "I don't." Did they solve anything?
Not really. They just discovered life. They discovered the origins of humanity and the sort of the
kind of they did, right?
Kind of. I don't know.
That's chapter 1 of some biology textbook.
Yeah,
like they literally showed him a 5-minute rendition of evolution that we all know about, and it's just like, that's us, that's us, bro. Yeah. It's like, well, how'd you do that? Like, can you show me the science behind that? Because like you just landing a spaceship here and all of a sudden we evolved doesn't mean shit to me.
Yeah, you just showed the ship landing on Earth and then evolution happened, and then the end.
That's it.
Literally the end, because that's where the movie ends, pretty much.
Well, and the reason why I laugh too is because I'm like, this movie's kind of like it's, when you have something on the tip of your tongue, or it's just you're getting tickled just on the edge to make it uncomfortable, but it's not stopping, but it's not enough to be like, I'm gonna like kind of go crazy, but maybe not, like that. Like that's how this movie to me ends, where it's like we almost got you there and we're out. Like that's it, and it's like, you're really not leaving me much to think about, but also you are. So
I forget, because obviously I watch these movies not too far apart, and they're similar subject matter, similar ilk. Is it this movie or Red Planet that just ends with the end on screen?
Shit.
Because I don't fucking remember.
I'm pretty sure it's this
movie.
one. I'm pretty sure it is, because I remember when I was watching it on the plane. Dude, I was so blown back. I didn't remember that Don Cheadle had that line. Like, I was just so blown back that it just popped up the end when I was like, you didn't solve. What do you mean the end? You haven't solved anything.
Don Cheadle says, "Have a good ride, Jim," and then he looks at the audience and goes, "And you guys have a good ride too when you go to Orlando, Florida, and Disney World and ride on the Mission to Mars attraction."
That would have been so much more fitting. I would have laughed really hard. I would have been like, "That's fantastic."
Perfect ending.
Not only that, hey, they didn't. And I know we're are we coming up on time?
We probably should start wrapping this up.
I was about to say, I know that
I could talk about this movie for like 3 hours.
The rescue mission was like, to me, what they were going to do, and they don't even show Cheadle getting back.
True, yeah.
Like, that's why they went there. That's why I have such
They don't see him reuniting with his son or his wife or anything.
No, that just ends with, like, that's the whole reason why they went there, and they shifted and just said, fuck it, Jim found life. Like, we're going to go with that one.
Jim opened his third eye and said, fuck off, and he just flew away.
All right, because we can end with this. I have to read this off because we watched this late at night. All right,
go for it.
And so this is me quoting my brother. I have to quote him because I've never laughed so hard reading one of these things. So it's late at night, and Sam's kind of giving me a like basically his gist of it, and he gets pissed. He goes, last line of the movie, "Have a great ride, Jim." This is a synopsis of the ending. Sees wife, basically nuts. Blast off. There he goes. Heartbeat music. Dear God, look at that. Have a great ride, Jim. The end. I read that at like 12:30 at night. I just started dying laughing. I was like, God. That's it. That's how this Disney movie ends.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. That would have been a much different movie at that point, but I would have embraced it. I love that. We can wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, let's go into ratings.
Do I
go first now, or
you can go first?
Oh, I go. You want to give yours off, and I give mine for Red Planet. That's fine. I don't care. I think I gave this thing a 5 out of 10.
Okay. All right. That's not too far off from what I gave it. Then.
In terms of our, we might be. If you go 2 or 3, we're probably close. like I said, it's decent entertainment. This thing is god awful, but it's one of the more, Sam was pissed that I told him to watch it. He's like, why the fuck are you telling people to watch this god awful? And it's like,
right.
I think that this is one of the only films I can really think of where I've never seen hooked in, sucked out, not involved, totally involved, don't know where it goes, over, And I think it's within enough circles that people could talk about this thing and have a really good laugh. And I also think there's aspects of it that you could probably pick up on because it is De Palma and he's a pretty decent director. And like
he's got a name for himself. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the good parts of it, and I think that there's not a whole lot of good parts, but the good parts that are good, I enjoyed, and that's a credit to him. So it's entertaining, at least in a intellectual level, if you will. But yeah, yes, entertainment factor goes way up there just to talk about it. The other side is the film.
Yes, so there's a very inverse scale there. Yeah, no, like I said, my rating isn't too far off from yours. I think I gave it a 4 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the value I place in it is just the entertainment of it and the unpredictability that the movie has.
It is ambitious. I will give that credit.
It goes for it, and I think that I just was not bored the entire thing. Therefore, I just give it points just based on that.
Have to. I mean, like, the film
is just so bafflingly goofy that I just couldn't believe what I was watching for most of it.
Yes.
And obviously not a good movie, but in comparison to another film that we're going to talk about, I think that this one at least has some entertainment value to it,
This is going to be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a good segue into
the
next film that we're going to talk about, which is Red Planet, which was the kind of ancillary recommendation that we had.
So these two films actually came out in the same year, and one of the great things that I did read was it's kind of like when The Fighter came out with
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, so The Fighter comes out, and then you have the other ones with Tom Hardy, Warrior, or Olympus Has Fallen, and White House Down. Like, there's always some sort
Truman Show, EdTV.
Yes, there's always like these kind of competing studios that get the same idea or whatever. I don't know exactly how it works out.
Deep Impact and Armageddon.
Yes, exactly. Like that type of. So that's where this came from, and it was like one of those things. Like, well, if we're talking, space, and we might as well do Red Planet, and it's kind of off the backdrop of 2001, and I guess you can see the difference. So you can see the difference in probably direction too, because 2001 came out in 69.
68.
68, and I'd be curious as to, we've now seen 3 space films where that ranks above these two.
Oh, yeah. So I'll summate Red Planet since you had Mission to Mars. So Red Planet is Mission to Mars' bastard cousin. Came out in 2000, stars such names that we've had on this podcast, like Val Kilmer, Carrie-Anne Moss, Tom Sizemore, Benjamin Bratt, Simon Baker, and Terrence Stamp, who I think just wanted fucking nothing to do with this movie and said, get me out of here.
You think?
And is a, I don't want to say it's a mission to Mars, but it basically is with these characters where they're tasked with heading to the Red Planet and assessing what's going on there. There's like some oxygen levels that they need to go and study, and they're going to land, spend some time on there. I think it's like supposed to be like a 6-month sort of ordeal that they were going to be on, and then they get into some problems with the ship. Some residual solar waves flare up. They cause the ship to basically EMP for a bit, and then that causes a lot of mechanical failures to where astronauts end up stranded on the planet, and there's worry about oxygen levels and the idea that maybe something is out there that they don't know, and they're fearing for their lives, and there's Amy that's chasing them down and all that stuff in this fucking movie. Yeah, I watched it, and boy, oh boy.
So let me lead off with, before we get going, because I wanted to see, like, I was kind of comparing the two in terms of the science behind it. Mm-hmm. This one actually a lot closer to being scientifically accurate, and one of the things that, just to give you, both of these movies kind of had to deal with it, but there was a guy, something Zerbin, Dr. Zerbin, that wrote the Mars direct plan. And it was how can we effectively get to Mars on a man-made mission. One of them was to send up ERV, like an earthly remote vehicle.
Okay.
And then, 6 months later, you send up a supply ship, a hub to like land on it, just to create impact. And then after about 2 months from when you send that, you send up the astronauts on a 6-month tour to get there. And so this movie actually like took that plan and kind of placed it into this is how we would get there. So it's funny, like I'm just reading up on it. It's probably the most accurate that you could get to Mars. Like they took this guy's like written thesis. It's been published. Like I read a little bit up on it.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah,
especially with how I feel about this movie.
That's exactly why I wanted to bring it up because I had to read about it and like, some of it, which kind of opposite of Mission to Mars, where it is totally unrealistic, but it's entertaining. This is maybe
realistic to a fault.
Yes, like it's almost like not entertaining realism, that's why I compare and contrast these things. Like, yes, let's go. So
let's go because I think that this movie compared to Mission to Mars is just way more fucking boring than the other one.
Interesting that you say that.
Yes, it still has like some sort of entertainingly bad aspects about it here and there, but just. It's so much more predictable and cliche, and the characters are just so fucking wooden, and I don't care about them at all, that my entertainment value with this movie was just so much lower than Mission to Mars.
It really is true, because I caught myself. Now, I was watching this late at night, so I wasn't sure if I was tired or I was like, man, this thing's just really boring. I was actually more fascinated with the movie itself, just not drawn in than I was the Mission to Mars, and it actually felt like a movie compared to Mission to Mars. But at the same token, I was much more bored in this one than in Mission to Mars.
Yeah, like when it comes to the story itself, I was fascinated by the writing and just what exactly just didn't work about this movie. But like with the events in the movie and the way it was paced and presented, like I was just ready to check out. I was ready to be done with it. Yes. Especially after watching another movie about going to Mars. Granted, this one they actually get to Mars much sooner, it's a little bit Mars. More about the red planet. But in terms of just like the characters and how much I cared and like when I wanted this movie to be done, it's like, Jesus Christ, can we just get through this, please?
So I mean, like no shot. Like I don't like Val Kilmer. I kind of want to put him on guys that are dudes, but I don't know.
We've had like 3 stinkers in a row with Val Kilmer in it and on this podcast.
Guess what he did on this one?
Yeah.
Did you read up on him?
I read about him and Tom Sizemore.
Yeah.
About how they used to be pretty good buddies, I guess, and then they did this movie together, and the stress of it pitted them against each other, and Val Kilmer acted like a diva, and Tom Sizemore threw like a 50-pound weight at his chest or something.
Yeah.
And then they got to the point where like they wouldn't even be on set together. Like they had to shoot. Like a lot of this movie is just them together.
Yeah, it's really. Like
and they had to shoot around
right?
the fact that they didn't want to be around each other.
Well, they were like, hey, like let's get Sizemore and Kilmer on this thing. Like apparently they got some good rapport, probably from doing Heat together. Like they buddy. And like, let's get them on because they're probably going to have some good chemistry. Like we'll get some genuine stuff because it's going to be pretty much those two guys.
Well, they were probably thinking, shit, we need to get somebody that we know will get along with Val Kilmer because we've read about Dr. Moreau and we've read about like this movie.
Remember Michael Douglas telling about like Michael Douglas saying like telling Val like, dude, you better fucking shape up because like Hollywood's been around a long time and people come and go, and if you want to last, you better figure it out. Because he was also a producer on The Ghost and the Darkness, not In the Darkness. So they had to have. Did you hear what the inciting incident was to get them?
Yeah, it was because Tom Sizemore wanted an exercise bike on set, and Val Kilmer threw a piss fit and said, I make $10 million on this movie, you're making $2 million. And then fucking Sizemore just walloped him with a weight, and then they just like threw a pissy fit at each other and didn't want to see each other anymore.
Yeah, they did the same thing. Kilmer wouldn't come out of his thing unless Sizemore. If Sizemore was on set, he wasn't coming out. They said a lot of the jiltedness between the characters are just because they couldn't shoot together. So
that makes sense because it's fucking janky as hell.
Yeah, they couldn't. There's a couple scenes they're together doing stuff.
There's scenes where they're literally shoulder to shoulder, sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
And it's shot in a way where like you can clearly tell that they don't appear on screen together. They have to have a stand-in for this.
I thought they had a couple I think maybe master shots, whatever you call it. Like the three guys were there. But then they have like the conversations they're doing. They didn't do it like talking to each other. So yeah, that's one of the things. And I think that's what made this movie really suffer. Like, really suffer.
I don't think that was the only thing. There's a few things going on with this movie that I was like, what the fuck is happening?
They could have made Amy a little cooler. I had a big issue with, like, how...
I have an issue with her. She is so clearly overpowered when it comes to her ability versus their ability.
Overpowering, right?
Like, yeah. Just, like, absolutely crushes any of them in a fight. Like, she could easily have taken them all at the same time. And then she, like, breaks Tom Sizemore's ribs and then runs away. And they're like, what's going on with her? Why is she running away? And he's like, she's playing war games. She's weakening one of them so that the rest of us will slow down and she can pick us off easier. It's like, she could easily fucking kill all three of you right there. Why wouldn't she just do that?
Had that same thought. The only thing I could possibly come up with is that she isn't able to... Because she's a computer, she doesn't like know about the weapons and everything that you have. So like that, maybe she wouldn't know exactly. Like she hit someone, and unless it registers that the force impact throwing them, like if that data isn't get computed, it would just simply be like a lucky strike. You know, like executed strike, executed strike, execute. So that's the only way I think. Because I had the same thing. Like I'm watching this, I was like, oh come on.
It would have made more sense to me if like they had damaged her in some way.
Right.
Like they retaliated against her, they damage her, and then she runs away, and they're like, why is she running away? And then he says, oh, sense of self-preservation. She has to go like take time to heal up or whatever. Like she has that weird programmed in her.
Self-preservation. She's gonna get into war game strategy now, where if she can, she's gonna like she'll injure one. Like she injured one of us. Like did it? Like they hurt her. She hurts one of them and takes off. Then that makes sense, right?
That would have made so much more sense than how they handled it.
Oh yeah, she's dripping oil. Like she realizes like she's hurt one of us now that we have to help. You know, so it slows us down. Then the next step she's gonna get into is like search and destroy. She's gonna isolate us because she knows that she can overpower us. And then it's you know she's still kind of like dripping oil. So and then they have a thing pop up. You know, it's like 75% capacity. You know, and like. Yeah, like they do that the whole film. I thought they did a good job of like I'll say this. Not realistic time, but actually doing some time. Whereas in Mission to Mars, there's no time given ever, anytime. It's just here we are. We've got forever, you know?
Oh, like giving you a sense of time and like how much they have.
Like in the one thing where it's like, hey, Captain, we got to go. Like when they're getting off the spaceship, you know, they go, you got 6 minutes. Like I'm like, that's unrealistic. Like, have you ever put on fucking shoulder pads, a helmet, and cleats? Like that takes 7 minutes. Yeah. Like these guys are getting into a system, checking every like 6. I'm like, just thinking like, why don't you just do fit like an hour?
You've got 2 minutes to gear up, and then you have to hit eject. It's like okay, I need 2 minutes just to put my pants on. Like who's gonna do that in that amount of time?
I'm like, why does it have to be so fucking like arbitrary? Like just go 30 minutes. No one in the audience is gonna be like, start the timer.
And then like some of the. We mentioned it earlier when we started the episode, but like the fucking casting choice of Tom Sizemore as like a scientist mathematician type guy. He's
not
like
good.
He's supposed to be this like weird fucking nerd, and they cast Tom Sizemore who's like this kind of like stocky, like he seems like he should be like the muscle head of the group.
He was in Heat as like the brass.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what you recognize Sizemore from. Like he was in Black Hawk Down as he got shot in the neck, had glass in his eyes, and was still like, I'm ready to go back out there and saddle up the troops. Like he's the hard ass motherfucker in this thing. And then they're like, he's a geneticist. They did like Carrie Ann Moss is doing like the screen reading, you know, like everyone's title, who they are.
Oh my God, I fucking hated that. As soon as that started, I was like, God damn it, this movie's going to be shit.
I kind of So I'm not a big fan. All right, I was not a fan of it because I'm not a big fan of thrusting 8 names at us right off the way with their titles.
So terrible exposition.
What happened with Sizemore? I didn't care what he was. Like I was trying to keep up with everyone and what they're doing, and they just do Sizemore, and I don't know what he's here for. I heard her say that he was like the math, like the group mathematician and that sort of thing. And I can see why they would maybe want a character like that, because it's supposed to be a dichotomy from like the weird fucking God angle that they had with this movie. Kind of. All right, this is the other aspect to it. But
don't cast Tom Sizemore as a scientist.
Well, even if they did, like I was like, oh, I get the dichotomy of it, right? They killed off Terrence Stamp, who they clearly established as a guy. So like I'm like, did Terrence Stamp revolutionize Kilmer or have him get like
convert him?
Yeah, like because Kilmer's playing off on this like I have faith, I don't, but never.
Yeah, because it's only like once after Terrence Stamp's character dies.
Yeah,
that Val Kilmer mentions to Tom Sizemore like, oh, I don't think science is the only thing. I think we have to have faith. And like that's literally the only point in the movie that he brings that back up. It's supposed to give us a sense of, oh, Terrence Stamp put this on Val Kilmer's character to carry through the rest of the movie, but that's the only fucking time that's ever brought up again. So it's so inconsistent and stupid.
They do, and great films do this, where they do a flashback of the film to bring it back up. Could not believe I watched that. And some weird fucking transition of Terrence Stamp going into his head to remember the memory of telling Kilmer, he goes, so I missed it, okay? I didn't catch the line, but also there's parts I missed because I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And it's not like it's that crazy. It's just kind of like a lot thrown at you, trying to remember names and whatnot. But he says you could, maybe I'll find a God made this under a rock. But they go back and they show you that memory, which annoyed the fuck out of me. So I'm like, I don't care. But then instead of Kilmer starts picking up rocks, and that's why he brings it at the end, because he kind of was just like, you know what, this I'm gonna give, it's Mars, and hey, maybe this signifies that you have to have a little bit of a greater faith. Like we made it out. Here's kind of that. Instead of doing the fucking flashback that we just saw like 20 minutes ago, not even.
It's not even that much time that passed.
Have Kilmer bring it up, and he's just tossing a rock while walking, and Sizemore goes, hey, what's that? And he goes, hey, maybe I'll find God's name in here or something like that. And then that clearly says, hey, he, man of faith, he's been changed a little bit, and then it
given new perspective.
Yes, and it puts them at tension, right? Because now, Tom Sizemore doesn't have to go, well, I'm a geneticist, and I say, fuck that. He just goes, yeah, good luck finding that there. Are you going to find? And then name off what's in the rock, right? And then you can kind of tell, oh, that's the man of science and that's the man of faith, right? No, they kind of breeze by it. They don't do some weird flashback. I wish they would have done that, where it would have been flashback to Tom Sizemore talking to Kilmer, going I'm the mathematician on the ship, and then it goes back into them living.
It does
because they do
the little magical transition, with the twinkles.
I love that they do that with Carrie-Anne Moss at one point.
I was gonna bring that up. How did you feel about the other flashback in this movie?
It wasn't all right.
It's not technically a flashback because it wasn't played before, but it's like a flashback in that we didn't see this scene, but it takes place earlier in the movie, but they're showing it to us so that we can have some kind of believable connection between Val Kilmer and Carrie-Anne Moss.
I don't know why they did it.
That just wasn't fucking there.
Who the fuck cares?
Who gives a shit?
Why thrust it in there? Why?
It's to tell us that they love each other and that they're into each other.
He just saw her naked, and she was like, "You should have kissed me." It's infatuation.
Mac, it's an important scene that's integral to the story, and without it, the movie would just suffer.
I've watched that. I was like, I can't remember if Kilmer and Carrie-Anne Moss, I thought they were boning before all this, and he comes out, sees her naked, and he has the joke, and he's like, well, we could do it all over again, and I'll try to make sure I don't believe what I'm seeing, or whatever the line was. That genuinely made me laugh. But I was like, I kind of like Kilmer being the stoner guy that just doesn't give a shit. I'm too cool for all of this, And I was like, I'm really down if he's just gonna kind of be the kind of witty, obviously calm, composed, gonna get back guy, and Carrie-Anne Moss just have to deal with him. I gotta save them. They're part of my crew. Fuck it. We're getting you back. I won't leave without you. That is so much more believable to me And then they get back, and then, you know, they both kind of look around. It's like, I guess it's just us two in 6 months. Like, might as well fuck, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would have much rather respected that than, like, they go...
Trying to force this, like, romantic angle to it.
In a weird flashback.
Yeah.
Like, not even like, hey, you remember that night? Like, they could have easily...
I should have kissed you, shouldn't I have? Yeah, you should have.
Yeah, but do it and just... Those two, there were only two of them, and they both annoyed the fuck out of me.
So I was going to ask you about the use of Carrie-Anne Moss's character specifically and what you thought of this. Do you think that they kept her character, the only female character in the movie, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think they kept her character on the ship solely so that the audience could see her in a tank top?
No, she's got her dirty thumb showing at one time.
I haven't heard that one before.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this movie did that specifically to like, look, boobies.
Well, I was kind of, half my mind was thinking of The Matrix, and I think that came out in 99. So
yeah,
like,
it was like right before this movie.
Her in that ship was kind of reminiscent of The Matrix. So like, I was kind of thinking like, oh, they're using her star power and they're putting her in a familiar setting that The Matrix was in. You know, that maybe there's an association there, something I don't really... That was kind of popping in my head because she kind of had that like grimy, dirty look a little bit and doing the... I don't know. I mean, I'm like, I don't know why they have to have... Why there isn't two females. There's a lot of this... So, I'll just say right now, I was more entertained with this one. Well, hard to say. I think I was more entertained with this one. This felt more of like a movie to me. At the same token, like I was bored as shit and I couldn't explain why.
Right.
And I think that, you know, talking out loud, I'm kind of recognizing why. I don't know why they only had to have one female. Okay, like probably just the love interest aspect that no one gives a shit about.
Right.
I don't know why they had to kill off two characters immediately when they were going to get hunted by Amy anyways. That didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Well, it's funny because I recognize Terrence Stamp from other movies, and I get the sense that he was just an older actor that probably didn't want to be in the movie all that much. So he just said, "Hey, can you fucking kill off my character so I don't have to do this shit anymore?"
Here's a great idea. Just throwing this out there. Tell me if you like this or not. They're gonna get hunted by Amy. Doesn't it make more sense to have 5 people get hunted if they're all gonna die anyways, as opposed to 3? Like instead of like, hey, we're going to kill them anyways, and they're going to find life on Mars anyway. So, like, he might have a ruptured spleen. Let's just get him there. We'll save him, right? The whatever we can find a fucking... Oh, here's the fucking so-and-so. Just stamp him, right? Santine for no... I've never been... Oh, I shouldn't say that. I'm just getting pissed off right now because I watched this, and I think I was more... this is what part... For no fucking reason, he starts calling out the dude, right?
Yeah.
For
like
no
he starts
reason.
calling him a pussy.
No reason.
I want to line up the events of this movie in terms of like the characters and their demise.
I'm really shouting in this thing. I'm getting more
no, you're good.
Vehemently upset.
You're good.
Than I was when I watched it.
What I'm about to say is on track with what you were just saying.
Okay.
So Terrence Stamp's character dies because he gets injured, and he's like, "Leave me behind. I'm gonna slow you down.
Yes.
I'm dead."
Yep.
So he's out, right? Kind of not really a sacrificial death, but it's sort of honorable in the sense that like I don't want to slow you guys down. Leave me here. I'm gonna let you go.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So he dies, and then the fucking hotshot guy is standing by the cliff, and he's like, Santine. He's like, you know what? Maybe if you weren't such a pussy, you would see what I see, and that you would have the balls to be in charge. You're such a fucking asshole. I hate you. And then, of course, because he just insulted the guy pushes him off the cliff.
The funny part about that too is that guy was standing there before he was, and then he told him to leave. Like he goes, now get the fuck out of my face.
Right.
And he like, I'm like, dude, you just clearly like he was here first.
Right.
You know, which is probably that like dominant say. Like that guy was like, what the fuck? But non-believable.
Yeah. Guy gets pushed off the cliff. He's painted as like an unsympathetic asshole anyway, so we don't even care about the guy getting pushed off the cliff.
Not at all.
Like what fucking ever. Like goodbye. Like I probably would have done the same fucking thing. And then they turn that guy, the guy who pushes him off the cliff, he goes from like reluctant kind of like, I don't want to say wimp, but like he's just very like kind of to himself introverted character to like, haha, I'm a villain all of a sudden. Do you think you can trust me? And then when he dies, you don't care about him because they turn him into a villain for some fucking reason.
Yes.
Even though like he tried to pull him back or whatever it looked like, he's like, oh no, like he's clearly showing some level of regret when he first does it, and then like as the movie goes on, he's like, I don't know if you can trust me.
The Raven, it's the Raven, just the guilt weighing down on him. No one even said anything to him. That's what drove me nuts too. When they're at the ice thing, he goes, Gallagher, you can't trust me. I know it. I can see it in your face, and I'm like, no one said anything to you, dude.
Yeah,
like you're the one walking around like you
just
did
kept
something.
your mouth shut. Val Kilmer would have let you get on that ship with Tom Sizemore, and you could have gone home.
Yeah, and they were just like, well, we need to have it so this is why it pissed me off, because like we need to have it so these three guys are here. You know, how about you just do all? Hold on.
Really forced fucking conflict. Doesn't feel organic at all.
Oh, and I wanted to add on too, because you're talking about all these characters dying. One, Terrence Stamp isn't around enough for us to care about him, even though he's the most prophetic out of all of them.
Right.
Two is Santine, who no one could care less about dying, because it was like, whatever, that guy's an asshole anyway, so you don't even care about his death. So now that the guy's who's kind of an introvert, you know, I don't want to say like not whimsical, but kind of like, I just don't know if we're going to make it, which I don't blame him. You just got stranded on fucking Mars.
He almost felt like Jerry O'Connell's character from Mission to Mars.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. And you're just kind of like, he's just hoping to God that they make it out. They turn him into the asshole. So the only guy, and not even like the only guy that you kind of care about, but would have been like, man, if that guy turned it around, or kind of like,
it's Tom Sizemore.
No. I'm saying like that dude. And then he pushes him off. So now you've taken a guy that you could have easily transitioned into that role, into like everyone's like bad guy, right? And then you got Sizemore and Kilmer, who are fucking wooden as hell because they don't like each other and are pissed off on set.
Like I could maybe see like if you gave a shit about like Sizemore's character dying, and that's kind of what the movie is supposed to like make you feel, but it totally fails because, like you said, one-dimensional fucking character made of a block of wood. His character is solely there to be like scientist character who makes sexist comment towards Carrie Ann Moss earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's so fucking dumb. And then he dies, and you're like, okay, cool. I don't give a shit.
I was like, oh, man, because I don't even know, like, I'm like kind of rooting for Gallagher in the whole thing. And it's just like he just always struck me as a guy that was too cool, but now I get it. Like that's probably props to Kilmer too for just mailing it in and still being like, boy, that guy kind of is funny and cool. You know, like he just seems like he seems like he could get back on that spaceship and just be like, we're not having sex. Like, I'm good. I'm just gonna smoke weed and hang out. You know, like that's how like that's it. But that was just because he's got no fucking emotional tendencies whatsoever because he didn't want to be on this goddamn film. And Sizemore's the only one that I thought actually tried to do something. Mm. But like, you're dealing with everyone that, you know, like no one cares. That's why. Here's the thing. Hear me out. They crash land, right? Terrence Stamp gets saved. Santine kind of does that thing, but he recognizes that he's being an asshole to the guy and says, hey man, I'm sorry. Like, you know what? I'm just spent a long day. Like, let's get back. Let's just hang out with the crew. We'll all die. You know, we'll all be together in peace, right? Pop the helmets. They all live. Bam. Here comes Amy. Kills one of them. They injure Amy, right? Mm-hmm. So now it's 4. Terrence Stamp's already got the bad spleen. She kills Santine because he's the least likable of the group anyways. Terrence Stamp's hurt. She just hurt Sizemore, right? And then Kilmer goes, oh shit. We hurt her. She's in war games. Like, this is it. Like, us 4 now have to get off and figure this out, right? Take out the dialogue that the one thing's there until there's only 2 of them left. Like, that's it. Like,
you just fixed the movie.
I'm telling you, so Terrence Stamp sticks around. You get more of like his, like, maybe it's God's will that we do, like, we are here. You know, like, maybe it's God's will that, like, my spleen got saved, and maybe that there is that's him finding God, was I have a higher purpose in life, and it's, you know, making sure that I get you 3 out of here now.
More of his presence in the movie would have made more sense for Val Kilmer's character to have some sort of religious resonance later in the movie.
Well, and now he's seeing Terrence Stamp with a ruptured spleen still going on, and it's just kind of like, man, I've been a dick my whole life. Maybe I should, like, take a little bit more of this shit.
Maybe I should humble myself. Maybe I should at least, like, think about these sort of religious philosophical idioms that he was introducing to me earlier in the movie.
Yeah, and then that's when he picks up the rock and he kind of flips it up, you know, and then he puts it in there, and Terrence is like, hey, is God written on that? And he goes, no, but maybe I'll find one that is, and just like kind of they both laugh about it, and then it's like, oh shit, there's the callback to the fucking Rock now.
Yeah, it still would have been like probably really cheesy, but it would have made much more sense, and it wouldn't have pissed me off as much as it did with this film.
We're at the difference here because I liked Amy being out there, and it's like, yeah, I know it's like it's really flawed, the whole movie, which kind of in a weird sense wasn't flawed in terms of the science. Now, granted, they didn't say anything about Mars, but like Sizemore brings up the fact that, like you come here, you have to bring a nuclear detonator, you get the carbon going, you create your own atmosphere, the algae produces O2, you get something to heart, and that's kind of like that circle of life now. That was actually like what was in the Mars Direct plan, was they would have like some, like obviously a little bit more behind it. That was the general gist of it that Sizemore reads off, right? So like, yeah, that little bit of aspect was off, but like outside of that, the science of the film was actually kind of close to how it really works, obviously for entertainment purposes, but like Amy, I would have been like, man, having her hunt these guys individually on Mars, how cool would that be? Like, she takes down one, what she's capable of now, and now it's these 4 guys, and there's the plot, trying to get off Mars, surviving Amy. Right? No, let's just have all these assholes that no one really likes running from Amy, who's doing the war game thing for no reason because she could have killed us all, trying to get off of Mars, and by the way, only 2 of us can.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Yeah, they went about it almost the completely wrong way.
Yes.
That they could have. So just looking through my notes, I feel like there's some things I wanted to mention. I love the line that the Santine has when he's like by the cliff and he goes, "I can come across as a hard ass. I know that. But technically, I didn't fail."
Yeah.
And then he fucking immediately gets pushed off a cliff. It's like, I don't know, there's just something really comedic about that. There's like some weird fucking music going on with this, like some weird rock techno music with like the echoey drums and the fucking reverby instruments that were happening.
So like, I guess I'm more of like a metallic clang type of guy rather than like the Police.
Yeah, rather than like Castlevania soundtrack.
There was a Police song, and then there was another song that they had. It was kind of like a little like a neo punk or a grunge, like not to that effect because it's obviously still commercial, but I thought it fit kind of with Gallagher's personality a little bit. But yeah, there was a weird tone in here that I wasn't sure what he was going for.
Yeah.
And I don't know whose personality it was fitting.
Yeah. Just so many different things about this, like the exposition at the beginning.
Poor.
Very poor, just super forced. Carrie-Anne Moss reading it. Val Kilmer didn't seem like he gave a shit. Just all around, just really fucking messy and poorly executed. I'm like a yes and no. I think it was just really poorly written. Because once you get into that game and it's like, all right, like it did do all right, and it's not its fault. I mean, if the characters would have cared, I wonder if that would have made any difference. But I thought that like the movie, like the effects were bad, but like in terms of nailing some of the science, and some of where it was at, and trying to make it suspenseful, like it was trying to go there. This was this guy's first time directing too. This is his one and only film. I was gonna say it was. I don't think I mentioned the name of the director, but let me do that now. Anthony Hoffman.
Yes.
And so this, like you said, this is his one and only movie. He hasn't done one after this.
When you lose $80 million on a film, you're gonna get blacklisted.
Yeah, he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and this thing was like heavily budgeted.
At least Brian De Palma has a legacy with like Scarface and the first Mission Impossible.
That was his last Hollywood film on like U.S. He after that movie he went to Europe and he made like 3 more films.
Yeah,
that's it. And they're like, all right.
At least he's got something,
Yeah, no. Well, he's got Scar. Dude, it's gonna be De Palma. Like they made a documentary on him. Like no one's doing Anthony Hoffman.
No, if you can't get a Wikipedia page, then that's rough, buddy. Yeah. I'm sorry.
And you have a movie out there.
Oh yeah.
Well,
you got Val Kilmer, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Tom Sizemore in your movie.
This would have been a Tropic Thunder type this would be a good movie to have a documentary on.
Yes.
This one would be a really good one to hear like what was going on.
I need like all the documentaries I can get about Val Kilmer just being an asshole on set.
Well, yeah, and Sam watched his like Amazon thing, and I wonder if like he got humbled in his own doc, or if he just kind of talks like just doesn't care.
Yeah, because he has his own movie about his life and like kind of the process of him going through like what was it, throat cancer or something. Yeah.
I know, because he's talking out of, and so he's got that thing going.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see how he addresses his behavior in like the mid '90s to early 2000s.
You got Top Secret, Top Gun. You know, he's got Heat and Batman Forever. So I mean, like 4 probably notable films. And
dude was on top of the world.
Literally, I mean, dude. And then you go into Island of Dr. Moreau, The Ghost and the Darkness, and
Red Planet.
Like, but that's what happened. I mean, he just became an asshole, became a diva, and that's what happened. You get ran out of stuff.
Yeah, and then clearly, like when you do a project and you don't care, it shows. Because I feel like despite how poor the character was in The Ghost in the Darkness, I feel like that's the one performance out of these 3 movies that we've discussed on this show so far that he's had the strongest of. You know?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like that performance in Ghost in the Darkness is leagues above this movie and fucking what's the other one?
Red Planet.
Well, Red Planet.
The Island of Dr. Moreau.
At the Island of Dr. Moreau. Yeah. I feel like that one's leagues above these 2
He's
movies.
probably better in The Ghost in the Darkness than he was in Batman Forever.
Probably, yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Heat's up there. The thing that sucks is Heat's probably the crowning moment of his acting career.
Yeah.
And that's 27 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, you know?
Yeah, he had a big name for himself. That's for sure. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about with Red Planet?
I don't know. What'd you like, man? We can't just be negative on all of this stuff.
I liked some of the set designs. I thought they were cool.
Okay, that's how I know it's bad.
No, just like I appreciated that they spent more time on Mars. You know, compared to
what
Mission
about
Mars.
that bouncing thing? You know, I like that scene.
The bouncing thing
when they land and they pop it open to preserve.
Yeah. That was kind of cool.
And that's based on real events too. Like I'm telling you, like some of the science behind this, I'm like trying to be authentic, but you know what probably happened? They spent too much time talking to the fucking nerds and not with the fucking actors.
I love the scene where they're pissing on Mars. That's pretty epic. Really cool.
My favorite.
I'm glad we got that one.
I will say I had a couple laugh out loud moments in this thing, which I don't know if it's weird or not, but there were times where I thought it was kind of like witty, you know. And when they were trying to find out how to get to the hub, and they're like, "We need to use math," and then Val Kilmer goes like, "Yeah, well, they were fucking right. Math would save our lives at some point." Every math teacher in high school's fist pumping because we now need to use algebra.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that line.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. And then the other one when they were talking about blasting off, and he goes, "I'm gonna let you 2 guys go there." He goes, "You know, you guys can go home, save the day, let everyone know that there's life here." And they go, "No, you can't." He goes, "Oh, it's all right. The ship's Russian, so you guys will probably get 10 feet off the ground anyways, and it'll explode, and I'll still live longer than you 2 assholes." Mm-hmm. I was like, I
did kind of like the line that I think it was Tom Sizemore who had it, where they find out that the guy who had worked on that ship on Mars, that like Russian thing, was now running a deli, and he's like, "We're putting the life in the hands of someone who's an expert in making sandwiches," or something like that.
It was kind of. I guess all Kilmer's lines were mailed in too.
It was kind of cheesy and corny, but and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact line.
No, it's pretty fucking close to that.
Something like that. Yeah. I was like, okay, that's kind of cheeky.
Yeah,
that's kind of tongue in cheeky.
Yeah, there's looking back on it now, you kind of think about like, oh man, it was kind of funny the line itself, but the way that they presented it, you can kind of tell that they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, Tom Sizemore was probably just talking to nobody that day because Val Kilmer didn't want to be on set with him.
Probably.
And then he thought to himself, "I'm talking about fucking deli sandwiches to nobody. I want to go home.
Yeah.
Kill my character."
Yeah, let me do the thing where that's actually one of the ones that they said that wouldn't happen and that Val Kilmer would have died. Like if she would have saw that thing in space, Val Kilmer would have been fried on Mars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of annoyed me. There was a couple things that annoyed me.
There's a few things that annoyed me too, but we can, unless we have more to say, we can kind of wrap up.
I think I've gotten most of it off my chest. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can go into my rating first.
Yep.
2 out of 10.
Whoa.
Yep.
Man.
I was not nearly as interested in this movie. I think that for the most part, the story, the characters, the way it's presented, the pacing is just way less interesting to me. And it just went to a crawl. And I feel like equal parts bad, but just, I don't know, the interest level was just gone.
I don't remember anything of this, and I think it's kind of fun that we got to talk about two movies came out. So actually, the rivaling movies of the year, and they both fell flat on their face.
Oh yeah.
I would agree. I'd agree with that, and I think, they were banking a little bit on the success, like Amy being the weird thing is in this thing that they put it out that Amy was the one hunting them, and there's only 5 minutes of Amy. Like it's literally nothing. Like she does kind of 3 things, and they don't even do it.
It's very sporadic how they use her,
and then not scary. So I gave this one a 5 out of 10. This one's tie. I couldn't have it any lower, any higher than Mission to Mars. With the faults that I find in Mission to Mars, I saw the being brighter with this one. But at the same token, some of the writing that we get to where Mission to Mars has these peaks and valleys of entertainment.
This movie, I will agree, is more consistent with the tone.
Yeah, like this, it's a movie. I mean, it's a good set. They got as shitty as the dialogue and story is. Like it is. It goes point A to point B to point C, and the tone and the elements that we're dealing with are are consistent. Whereas that one, it's like we go from this to this to this to this.
Let's try this genre. Let's try this genre. We're a horror movie. We're a fun, goofy space movie.
Yeah, and I think that's where that one. So anyway, 5 out of 10 for me. I mean, and Kilmer's in it, and I laughed more in this one than I did Mission to Mars. So I thought some of the lines were funny. Man, and now I'm looking back and he's talking about the thing with Amy, and I was like, man, that kind of Kilmer doesn't seem too concerned about Amy, and he's like, I bet she's just because he's so cool. No, he just fucking mailed it in.
He just didn't give a fuck. He just
literally
did not
mailed
care.
it in. Like literally, was just like, that's Amy. She's doing war games. She's gonna hurt one of us, and then
his character felt the exact same as it did in Island of Dr. Moreau.
It's the same guy.
It's the same dude.
He still had the weird fucking attire too. Like Val's gonna dress himself today like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, it's like goddamn. Speaking of 5-year-olds, we got 5 epic questions. That we can answer. 3 of them are from the audience. 2 of them are ones that I came up with.
Okay.
So we'll get the audience ones first, and then we'll do mine after. So our first question is from Drew, who asks, what is the best 10-year span of all films for an actor/actress and a director in their careers?
So we got to come up with 3 of these?
Not necessarily. I think...
just picking anyone?
Just picking anyone.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Spielberg's got a pretty good track record, especially like the 90s. Even like before then, because he had Jaws,
Close Encounters,
all the Indiana Jones, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
He had so many.
He's kind of like one of the all times,
Yeah.
Go.
And very impressive. And like even Ridley Scott too, especially in like the 80s and 90s, had a really good run with like Blade Runner and Alien. I know Gladiator was a little bit later, but that was a little bit long time ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of someone that would have, like, maybe an actor that's had a great, just knocked it out of the probably Tom Hanks in the 90s.
I was thinking Tom Hanks, 90s Hanks.
So I would have said Tarantino.
Okay.
I think Tarantino probably from 2003. Because, I mean, like, dude, he comes out with a movie every, 2-3 years? So you're looking at possibly 3 to 4 films. So, I mean, it's really just depending on when you want to pick that film. And, Tarantino, like, he's had a run of success with his films.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Brad Pitt was doing pretty well he's still doing well, but it feels like he's in less notable stuff. than he used to be. Because like there was that run where he was doing shit like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and like shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, shit like that.
I don't know why that's the only one I can think of.
You pick one film from 06 to name off, and you don't even come up with the rest of them.
Oh, okay.
You want to know? Let's do Brad Pitt. Let's just look.
Maybe like 2010's Brad Pitt, because there's Tree of Life. There's
oh god, don't. Have you seen Tree of Life?
Not yet.
Don't.
I plan on it.
Oh, good god.
Not Breaking Benjamin. That's the band. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. That was around that time.
Producer Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's. I wonder what production house he owns.
Here, I'll look.
That's probably why he's not acting. I got Brad. I'm looking Brad Pitt right now, and you led off with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? So that was 05. So you go Babel to Ocean's 13 to the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Lee Ford, Burn After Reading, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Inglourious Bastards, Megamind, Tree of Life, Moneyball. That's actually not a bad year stretch.
No, it's not.
Killing Them Softly. Well, no, I think the reason why is because I just read The Counselor. That movie's terrible.
I want to watch that one. That one's a Cormac McCarthy adaptation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I think I read that somewhere, and that's kind of why I saw it. Because I heard it had really bad reviews, and it's got Fassbender in it. He's one of my fucking guys that are dudes.
I know. I love Michael Fassbender, but he is just in some shit.
Like I don't know what I think he's like the Val Kilmer of the 2010s.
Like he did fucking Snowman, that horrible fucking movie. There's like a detective murder mystery.
Guarantee you he is a huge diva. Like I think the same thing happened to Tom Hardy. Like you don't just go from being in some of these big name films with some of these big name directors into just shit. Like guarantee he pissed people off and did the wrong thing, and now that's why he's in this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like same thing I say about Nick Cage. Like everyone talks about Nick Cage needing money. It's like no, even like let's just say he does like acting. He probably pissed off a lot of people, and he just had to accept the roles that were given to him, and it's just really bad, low budget films. Mm-hmm. And it's like a wrestler that uses his name to promote himself, but he's not working with any of the big name guys. So Brad Pitt's not a bad choice, though.
No, I think I'm just looking at his filmography just to confirm, but like, fucking Jake Gyllenhaal had a really good run in like the 2000s or like the 2010s.
It's hard.
So like Prisoners, Enemy, Nightcrawler. Those Prisoners and Enemy came out the same year. Nightcrawler the year after.
Nice.
Fucking Everest, 2015. Nocturnal Animals 2016, Oksha 2017, The Sisters Brothers 2018.
Haven't heard that one.
I think that's got John C. Reilly and Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Oh, that's a Western.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. It's been on my list for so long.
Really?
Yeah. But he had like such a good stretch.
Gyllenhaal's a good one.
Yeah. It feels like lately he's doing a lot of movies that you can clearly tell are like him just doing it for the paycheck, like a fucking Ambulance, or
yes,
he's making a Roadhouse remake with fucking Conor McGregor.
Nice.
Have you seen that? No, like any news about that?
I've seen some stuff. Like I don't know. He pops up in random things. Like there's one where he's in an octagon. He fought someone. Like they promoted an MMA fight with him and something.
Yeah.
Like
I think that's supposed to promote Roadhouse or something.
Oh, really? Like that's like the opening to Roadhouse, and then he gets bounced out of MMA.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. Gyllenhaal's a good choice.
Yeah, Gyllenhaal would be one of my choices for actor at least.
Yeah, I'd probably say like De Niro. I think fits in there.
De Niro. I mean, DiCaprio is super selective, so it's not like he is in movies very often, but the movies he is in, especially like within the last like 15 years, have been pretty good.
We need to do like a episode one. Well, I guess it's hard to be, but like figuring out like the wine cellar nominations. One of Bill Simmons, he wrote the book of basketball, but one of the things that he talked about was a wine cellar, and picking out, like a certain basketball team from a certain year, kind of like you would do with a 19, like a Chardonnay, whatever, from France in 19.
Okay.
Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I've got this is what you want to taste. Like, this is like one of the ones that I'm holding, top 10 wines I have in there, right? And so he would do that, and he would talk about the basketball teams. We need to have like a top 5 wine cellar of like
actors.
I'm gonna go Gyllenhaal 2011 to 2015 and name off like his 6 films and be like, you give me Gyllenhaal in that stretch and put him in like The Godfather, you fucking nail it, or like give me Scorsese, like boom, 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 like just figuring out that and just figure out like what's our number like one, this is like I want DiCaprio from this era to this era, like because I think it's hard and it's a fair question of a 10-year stretch. I think it's just hard because you have so many ups and downs with the movies that come out.
Yeah, because an actor will be consistently good, but then they'll be in some shit like 1 or 2 movies like every other year. Ambulance, fucking. I don't know. I heard The Guilty wasn't that great.
The Guilty, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it's, I haven't seen him, so I shouldn't shit on him too much. They could be suspenseful and a little entertaining. So, but that would be, I'd write that down. Do your top 5. Give me, I'd like a nice little Martin Scorsese 78 to 83. You know, like
we could do that.
Yeah.
I'd be down.
Yeah, because I'd be interested to see like what one would be my top Marvel.
How it
fucking just like look at this fucking.
You pick Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. between 2008 and 2018.
Yeah, fucking give me this, but you have to include all the movies in that span.
Yeah,
like you can't be selective and just choose like those movies.
Well, the only other movies he did between then was like what Sherlock Holmes or something, right? Because he did fucking Doolittle after Endgame. So
he did.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Damn, Mr. Downey.
Nolan.
Yeah,
Christopher Nolan.
Nolan's consistent, but he's kind of like DiCaprio. He's very selective.
Hold on. Yeah, well that's what you're taking, dude, because you could get. Let me see this. Let me read you off a little.
Like it'd be interesting to compare a director / actor with others in terms of like volume versus quality,
True. I mean, but that's why the guys that is because of the quality. It's not the volume of work. Those guys
that is
never. True. You might catch a name just because like one of their movies actually hits.
Yeah,
dude. All right. So give me a little Christopher Nolan Pinot Grigio, right? So like seriously, you want to talk 10-year stretch? We'll do 10 years, and I'm gonna throw one in here, okay?
Okay.
Just because it could, The Prestige.
Yes.
To The Dark Knight. To Inception. To The Dark Knight Rises.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, you can say what you want, but Interstellar. All right, now they got this really weird one in here. It's called Quay. It says it's 8 minutes, so I don't know if that one counts or not. An 8-minute documentary, which I don't think counts. So I'll take his next film, Dunkirk.
Okay.
Like you go that, like give me that stretch, because then it goes into Tenet. You get Tenet and Oppenheimer, and I think Tenet would make that wine right there where you're sipping on it at the very end. Go a little too bitter.
So I've got a good one.
Okay.
And it'll be interesting how it shapes up with this movie coming out later this year. Denis Villeneuve.
Ooh.
His name already kind of sounds like a wine.
Yeah.
So not even counting like his earlier French Canadian stuff.
No, you get a start and end at a certain. You get a period.
So if we're starting 2013, we're starting with Prisoners, which is like fucking strong.
Yeah.
You've got Enemy.
Yes.
Right. Sicario.
Yeah, that one's great. That movie's fucking insane.
Arrival. Blade Runner 2049.
Arrival's not bad. Blade Runner 2049 sick.
Dune. And then we'll see how this one shapes up. But if Dune Part 2 can land it,
yeah,
that would be fucking great. Like, that would be banger.
Pretty. So, like, your 2 worst films in there is Enemy and, like, probably Dune.
Yeah, probably.
But I'm not, like, when I say bad, like, you're talking, like, yeah, Mac, it's a fucking 7.5 out of 10.
If we're looking at these movies, none of them I've rated below an 8. Like, out of any of these movies that I've seen that are
you have
from like
Enemy at 8?
Yeah.
Really? I thought you said it was all right.
I think it was one of those things. I would love to revisit it, but it was one of those movies where like I first watched it when I was really getting into movies.
Yes. So I remember you talking about it, and
I think we talked about it like right after I watched it, and I wasn't entirely sure how I felt.
I think the ending fell a little flat, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one we throw on there. That's a great. So I mean that's a 10-year stretch right there.
That's a really good 10-year stretch, especially if Dune Part 2 can land.
That's like a nice. That is something that you throw in there because like let's just say you pick out that year's, you have those DVDs. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, hey, like house party going on, like this is what we're throwing on, and you go, I got a good selection to choose from.
Yeah, it's like, yo, pass the aux cord. Okay, but you better not play trash. And then I play the Dune throat singing music.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Awesome.
You're like, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. Nice.
Yeah. We're getting foreshadowing with this, aren't we?
Yeah.
Did we have any more to say about this question?
No, great question. And I think it just actually, so there's 2 lists I know. Right, we need to write down the list that we need to create though, but top 5 guys that are dudes is one. And then top 5 wine cellar movies. I love that concept. Yeah,
I think it's great.
It's really fun to think about, and it's also fun to think that like I like that it's like, all right, like if you take Gyllenhaal, you have to take in those shitty films, so you do have to, if like you have those in there, have to worry about your guests going, hey, put on that one. It's like no, that's okay.
Nah,
that's okay.
Nah, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, you said you had really good Gyllenhaal. Put that one on. And you're like, no, that's all. Not Prince of Persia. That's not the one you want.
Oh my God. Our next one comes from Gideon.
Nice.
Who asks, what light through yonder window breaks?
What is it now? What light through your window breaks?
What light through yonder window breaks?
Who's yonder window?
Yeah, that's what I want to ask.
Is
like,
it
who
a
the
person?
fuck is this yonder window?
Yeah.
And why is he breaking? Or like maybe his name is just Yonder and he's breaking my windows. Like I don't get it, dude.
That would be an interesting one if you're probably Window would not be the last name, but
Yonder Window.
Yeah.
That sounds like
it sounds like a Wes Anderson.
That sounds like the name that Charlie Day would have named his main character, because in fucking Fool's Paradise he names his character Latte Pronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fool's Paradise?
Yeah.
Oh, that's one that was like
that just came out like this past year. It fucking sucked. I'm sad to say.
It's just fell flat. Yeah, but Yonder Window would not be a bad name. I gotta see it written out.
Oh, yeah, here you go. Pass you the phone. I love that he capitalized every word too. As if it was like a title of a movie.
To get philosophical, is it asking what film lights my soul? What movie breaks through that impenetrable shield we have all up?
You don't recognize that line at all?
No.
Okay, I will fill you in. It's a line from Romeo and Juliet. When he's going,
oh, sure.
Soft. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Like that's where that's from.
Okay, is that Mercutio or is that?
I think that's just that's Romeo.
That's Romeo talking about Juliet.
Yeah, he's like outside of her bedroom window, and she's like
talking to her. Oh yeah,
he's like talking out loud, hoping she'd hear him or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I'd have to watch the Leo version again. Yeah. But
right, that one's the best one.
the pinnacle.
I don't know what you're talking about with that 67 version.
Shakespeare would have given a standing ovation
after he does a line of coke.
If he'd seen Baz Luhrmann's fucking Romeo and Juliet movie.
Oh my God. Yeah, the Elvis fucking... Oh.
Yeah, I didn't realize he directed the Leo Romeo and Juliet movie. But it makes sense. It makes fucking sense now that I think back to it.
And that's ambitious. So what?
It certainly is something.
It's got to be something. I don't know.
What light through yonder window breaks? I think that light's name is Kenneth Branagh, because he does so many fucking Shakespeare movies. that has to be the right answer, right?
Yeah, I'm going with Yonder Window.
Yonder Window is the answer. The answer is in the question.
Breaks the light.
breaks this fucking podcast.
That'd be fucking great. It's just it smash cuts to a guy throwing a shoe up into a lamp.
Oh yeah,
and it's just.
I'm picturing some like toothless heathen that looks like he's out of a Charles Dickens novel. His name's Yonda Window.
I was about to say Ebenezer Scrooge. It's like, is that just
basically he's a knockoff?
Yeah, like he's got like the towel wrapped around his knuckles for no reason.
Oh, well, because they're bloody. Because he keeps breaking so many
no,
windows.
It's just that it's like like keep your keep your hands warm.
Oh.
It's like it's just knuckles and palms, baby. That's all you need.
Yeah.
It's
like he's going to Fight Club.
Yeah,
that's what I'm picturing. Great question, Gideon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yonder Window is a great name. Speaking of names, Chris asks this question, and you'll really like this one.
Okay.
What are the best and worst cereals? Best and worst cereals.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, if you go out into my kitchen right now, Mac, you will see that I have not only Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but I have Cocoa Pebbles. I'm a Cocoa Pebbles kind of man. Are you a Cocoa Pebbles or Fruity Pebbles guy?
No, I'm a neither.
What do you mean you're a neither?
Those things sucked.
What?
I'm really one. Okay, they're the Fruity Pebbles. Yeah, somewhat tasty. There's a shelf life of fucking 2 minutes. You put those things in milk, and it's a sprint to get done. I like to enjoy my cereal. All right, not shovel it into my mouth, and because
that's why you got to be strategic about it. So like what I do is
let's go into your Cocoa Pebble.
We'll go into
strategy.
my routine. I will give you my strategy right now. Mm-hmm. Maybe this will help you in the future, and then you'll like Cocoa Pebbles. I don't know. But what I do, you get a nice big bowl.
Yup.
Dump that shit in there, right?
Okay.
Set it up to where I'm going to eat it.
Yep.
Get a glass. Put the OJ in the glass because I like to have OJ with my Cocoa Pebbles. Mac is giving me a look like I just committed a war crime.
Yeah, what?
But I set that next to it.
You're going to turn into Yonder Window.
I get my napkin, I get my spoon, and then I get the milk. And then I pour the milk.
Napkin?
Yeah, because I gotta get it set up so I have everything ready to go for when I get the milk. Because I don't disagree.
You're getting on the time crunch.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
There is a time crunch, but I enjoy it, right? I enjoy that period between when the Cocoa Pebbles are still crispy, but you dip them in milk. Is so fucking good.
I am now thinking about you and your some sweat on your brow as you're watching the clock tick. And once it hits 12, dumping it and doing all that shit and like looking back up, knowing that at some point, if you take a breath of a second, it's going to just like deflate. And you're going to look down and be like, fuck it.
That's why you got to prepare yourself. You got to be smart about it. So you got to just set it up so where you put the milk in, and luckily my seat is right next to the fridge. Put the milk in, put the cap on, open the fridge, put it back, sit down, enjoy my bowl.
Enjoy my bowl in the 2.5 minutes that I get with it.
Well, I mean, I also have a video going and ready to go.
Yeah, it's always 3 minutes, guys.
Because I have this habit to where I need to watch something if I'm eating something. You know, if I'm at home and I'm eating something.
The monotony of food and life, it really is boring.
Well, if I'm out to eat, most of the time I'm with people, so then I can enjoy their company. But if no one else is around, it's like I have to have overstimulation because I'm a fucking millennial and I need this.
I was just about that'd be such a great diet. Like imagine. All right, I got to lose 20 pounds. I'm just not going to I'm going to leave everything just quiet, and I will never eat. You've been conditioned. Your Cocoa Pebbles conditioned you.
I'm a willing participant. I have consented to this. Cocoa Pebbles and General Mills have not put a spell on me.
Oh my god, dude! When I was living with my buddy a couple of years ago, he would buy Fruity Pebbles, and like every time he'd get the family box, and I would just be like, "Why?
That's what I
Why
usually
do you torture yourself?" And then Preston would want cereal, and he'd eat it, and then guess who's got to clean it up? This guy. Because he'd get through, and then after 3 minutes, if he has one conversation with me, takes a bite, and he goes, "Oh, they're too soggy." And then I'm like staring, and I'm like, "There's half the bowl." Yeah. We had that shit when I was growing up. Anytime we got it, Sam would eat them because Sam probably, would grab a magazine and do the same thing. Like, I've got 3 minutes. I'm just going to go, and now I know what I can read in 3 minutes. Never liked it. I'm not doing it. I like to enjoy myself. Now, granted, all cereal has a certain expiration time in there, but normally it's an enjoyable amount of time.
Well, let's hear your cereals then. Let's hear your top cereals. McClain.
So I think just nostalgia alone, taste, and just content. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Now, I say content because the back of those boxes would usually have a maze or you'd have to find something. So there's your time. You're just sitting there eating cereal, and then you can look at the back of the box, and they'd have a crossword puzzle, a maze in there.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is delicious.
Dude, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, and top, I mean, come on. Anytime when you were a kid, we'd have to have it on sale. Right, like if it wasn't on sale, my mom wasn't gonna.
You just weren't gonna get it.
Well, and that's me and Sam could wolf down a box of that thing with one sitting. So my mom's like looking at it like that's a $5 breakfast.
You were growing boys, you had to have something.
So I wish you would have known that. So anytime I got it, it was a treat. So that's another reason why I like it. And so even now, like you can have too much of it, in my opinion. But if you do just the right amount of time, fantastic. Lucky Charms is up there. Captain Crunch, Peanut Butter Crunch, that's probably number 2 for me.
Me personally, I'm not big on like peanut buttery cereals. I don't know why. I just never have been.
I'm not gonna. That's one of those things. In my internship in 2014, I used to eat peanut butter Cheerios and milk.
Okay.
So that was like one of people. Like I would take a scoop of peanut butter, put it in the cereal, and put the milk in there.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude. Don't knock it till you try it. And the nice thing about that, too, there's no fucking expiration time. You don't have to sit there and get all that peanut butter down within 2 minutes.
All right.
You're right. I don't need to sit here and bash Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles. I don't like the Count Chocula stuff. I'm not a big chocolate guy in my cereal.
Yeah. Cocoa Pebbles is really the only one that I'm attached to. My mom would never let me get Trix. Like ever. No matter how many times I asked for it, no matter how many times it was fucking advertised to me as a kid, where they beat it into your head and say, "Oh, tricks are for kids." I would sit there and be like, "I'm a kid. I want Trix. Mom, can we get Trix?" And she would never get me Trix.
Yeah,
never ever get me Trix. And I think maybe it's because it would destroy the roof of your mouth, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Because Captain Crunch does that too, right?
Yes, I was about to say there. Yeah, the Captain Crunch series, I think, is fantastic. I mean, between Peanut Butter Crunch, normal Captain Crunch, and the Wild Berry Crunch,
solid foundations. Right
I would
there.
say if you're looking at like a top 3, because Cinnamon Toast Crunch is like the Waffle Crunch or something like that, and that one's like, But if you're looking at like a package deal, like a family of, like, I'm taking that one.
Mm-hmm. I'm ambivalent on Apple Jacks.
Nah.
I could take them or leave them.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
they're good. What's the Tony the Tiger?
Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes. I love that one. Is one where I could literally take a half-gallon bowl, pour milk into it, and eat a whole box. Like but that's one of the ones I'm not going to the store and being like, I gotta find my Frosted Flakes. Same things, peanut butter, Cheerios, and milk. Love it, fantastic. But I don't need to go out and get that stuff because it's a little bit of an operation. But
I was going to say, this sounds like you need a lot of external ancillary product to enjoy your cereal at that point.
I'm not. Don't buy Cheerios on their own. I wouldn't suggest that unless you need the fiber.
Unless you're an old fucker.
Raisin Bran's not bad either. I'd probably take Raisin Bran before I do Apple Jacks.
Okay.
I would probably do Raisin Bran before I do Trix or Fruit Loops.
Yeah. Fruit Loops, I feel the same about them as I do Apple Jacks. Yeah. I mean, they're basically of a similar ilk. I could just take them or leave them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything else we wanted to say about cereals?
No cereals. No. Kyle, you're a real cereal killer. Is that what we were going for?
Yes. Speaking of killer, we got some killer questions that I came up with. I'm promoting myself.
There we go.
So I wanted to ask these just because it is episode 50, and I think it would be fun to ask questions that were of a more retrospective nature.
Okay.
In terms of like you and me doing this show.
Yep.
So I have 2 of them. My first one is, what are movies you've talked about on the podcast that you'd possibly like to revisit in the future? So I have some answers if you want to give it a think. I think that it being the first episode that we did, we could maybe eventually revisit Drive and Only God Forgives. I think that'd be fun. Eventually.
Well,
maybe not like
so
super
like
soon.
half the issue is like Drive. I don't. Yeah, like I do. I mean, I would. That one I'm just curious about. It's like, how much do I get out of it? Now, Only God Forgives. Because I don't even think I saw that when we
talked about it.
Yeah, because I remember I had to go off my. So that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, have a little more fresh take on it. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And also the other one, just purely from a technical standpoint, I'd like to eventually revisit Kill Bill, just because the audio got fucked up. With that episode.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if we had a conversation about those two movies where you could at least bear through the conversation and have a nice, enjoyable listening experience with our discussion on it.
Oh, yeah, that would be like a... Yeah. Well, and you're picking the two like ones that I just don't care about.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's... Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, out of all of his movies, those are like the ones that I'm like, they're good, but By the way, I think you were right about the Black Phone.
Really?
Yeah. I was talking about that with Jasmine the other day, and there was a house that we were looking at or something, like to Airbnb.
Okay.
And she goes, "What's this remind you of?" And I saw the house, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "I'm gonna drop this one." And I go, "The Black Phone," and I didn't think it. She goes, "That's what I was thinking," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't think you remember that film." She goes, "No, I kind of do. We saw it at the drive," and I was like, "Yeah." And I looked there, I was like, Kyle's right. It was like that movie was kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
Like just nothing really.
Yeah, I remember you were pretty into it.
I don't want to say you were giving it more shit, and I
was giving it a lot of shit.
Yeah, and I didn't. I was kind of backing it up, but like looking back, I was like, yeah, I guess it was a little bit of a, like I'm looking at like the A24 films, but I don't even know if it's like revisiting it.
Yeah, just kind of. I don't know, maybe an update. But there's so many A24 movies out now. Like I haven't even kept track of my list.
Well, I would have done it from what we had.
Yeah. Like have at least a top 20 or something. Or like top 15.
Yeah, well, whatever we read off, like that would be the ones that I'd want to revisit or see if I haven't seen it. Like you can't add any new ones, but if we also didn't put them on our list of what we've seen, like you can't bring them now back in, because like it wouldn't be revisiting it. Like, but since we all talked about those films, like I feel like I would throw that in there. I kind of going through this stuff. I don't really know how many of these ones that I'd want to, like Blade Runner 2049, but it's not necessarily for a thought it's just viewing pleasure, Only God Forgives probably would pop up on there. Maybe some of the ones that we talked about from the 2022 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Or the 2020.
I would like to have
probably 2022.
I'd like to have eventually maybe a whole episode. Obviously on like another movie, but like a full-length discussion on Tar. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I could watch Tar again too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my brother liked it or not, but I that one was riveting.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Yes.
That one I think I could do like a full discussion. Cool. Did we have any more for that one?
No, I mean just going through it, from a lot of, I would say more so for me would be some of the lists that we've talked about than would be like the individual movies. I think just from talking about them or going through it, I feel like I throw it on. One of the things that I don't like is throwing on a movie and then walking step by step with it, And it's kind of like you're not really. Hopefully, it provides more insight or thought, but I'm not huge into that. 2049, I honestly, it's like I've seen it. I know I loved it, and I can't remember anything about it. So just throwing it on, but like I don't know how much more it would be like. Oh shit, Yeah.
How much more could we say that we haven't already said?
Yeah.
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 How much more could a woodchuck chuck? Yonder window. Answer this question for us. So going from that, our last one that I had that I wanted to ask was, what's your favorite movie the other co-host has recommended for the show?
You getting upset with some of these interesting ones? I did think about that. I was like, man.
Nah, you're good, dude. Because I have an answer for one that you've recommended.
Really?
And one that I might not have given enough credit to when we first talked about it. Well, actually, did you recommend The Thing?
Yes.
Or did I recommend it?
I don't remember.
I know it was your favorite. One of your favorite movies.
I
feel like
I'm going to take credit for it just because I brought it up and said we should watch it. But I think you might have did it after we watched Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay.
It was what one was up first? Let me see it.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think I might have recommended it.
You had to have done it because I think
because you did the Big Lebowski before, and then because the next episode after Big Lebowski is the one where you're not on it, and then you come back, and then we do the thing. So yeah, I think that one was my recommendation.
I think you wanted to see it, and then I came up with kind
of an idea.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, that you'd like to. I thought it'd be John Carpenter would be fun, and
yeah,
guess it wasn't.
Bone Tomahawk was, I think, your recommendation though, right?
That's what I was yeah, it was, and that one's fantastic. You know what's interesting? Yeah, Stalker being in my portfolio. That one is another one that I'm not gonna say I could probably no. Maybe. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, man, I really remember loving talking about this.
You're on the edge of saying you could revisit it.
I remember loving talking about it.
But I can see you fighting it.
No, because I like talking about it so much, but I didn't like watching it. It was like, dude, that might be the tree of life for you. You might be like, man, what a philosophical, just beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, I don't know if I can watch it again. And then be like, hey, we should watch it again. Did you recommend The Neon Demon, or did I? I did. You did?
I think I did, because I think at that point
you did.
It had been a year of us doing the podcast, and I wanted to do another Nicholas Winding Refn movie.
Yeah, because Nope and Attack. I think I recommended Attack the Block.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you talked about The Gray Man and Collateral. Yeah. So you Neon Demon, I think would be in here.
I really enjoyed Magnolia. You recommended that one.
Yeah.
PTA.
Yep. Because I hadn't seen it either.
Really memorable movie.
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is as an incel motivational speaker.
Well, that's when I learned Tom Cruise had chops.
Right.
I didn't give him nearly enough credit.
He's got something more than just charisma leading man.
Yes. Yeah, I think. I mean, I was just like Neon Demon, Stalker, would be in there. Sleepaway Camp. No,
okay.
I recommended Sleepaway Camp, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Because you also did Silver Bullet.
Yes. And you recommended All Quiet on the Western Front, or did I?
Well, that was, I think, just the new one.
That was a good call on the new one.
Because what was with that one? I'm trying to scroll
Warriors.
through and see it. Yeah, that was your
recommendation.
recommendation.
You recommended the Warriors, and then we had that go with it.
Oh yeah, I did, didn't I?
Yeah, but I had already seen the Warriors. I mean, it wasn't like.
Yeah, I feel like I often recommend movies that you've already seen that I haven't.
Well, I've seen both of the ones that we just talked about today. I really like going back and seeing some of them because a lot of, just from talking on the podcast, one of the things that it's done is it's helped me critically think about movies slightly more. Not saying it's great, but you can you pick up on a little bit more of what's going on between the score, the production, the sets, some of the lighting,
how
some
it
of
all comes together,
screenwriting, characterization, building characters, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's one of the things you watch a movie and typically it's like, oh, what did I think about the characters? Were they funny? Did I like them? Was the story good? And now there's a little bit more that goes into it, and it opens you up to being more receptive watching these things and kind of thinking about them and their impact on others. Now, I still don't get too deep into it, but whatever. We
go as deep as we need to.
Yes. And
light through yonder window breaks?
That's what I was about to say. I love Yonder Window.
Yonder Window, you're my man.
Yeah.
Shout out. We need a new shirt with a Yonder Window on it.
What it needs to be is it says Yonder Window, and then it said that graphic of the Russian bear in Red Planet. I thought that thing was absolutely hilarious. I hated that they had to put that in there so that way the audience can tell if something's good or bad because it was in Russian.
Yeah,
but I did love his little
the
outfit.
Little cartoon bear.
Yeah, the cosmonaut Russian bear as a sitting there to say good job or not good.
That'd be such a niche shirt.
That's our fucking true, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
If we're anything, we're niche.
I'm telling you, I saw that thing and I was like, I love that thing. Like, I love it sitting there. I know it's fucking a plot device to make sure that we all know what's going on, but like, that is awesome.
Oh my God, that is an idea.
Yes.
Was there anything else we wanted to say with this question?
No, I think those are the couple. But I'm going to tell you right now, top 3 movies that you've said. Now, even though Beau is Afraid's number 1. I'm so happy that that's in my life, and I don't know if that's maybe more anxious or recognizing my anxiety. But that movie is just like, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good.
Neon Demon being in there. Not that I think about it constantly or whatever, but that I really like that, and it kind of swayed me on where I sit with Winding Refn. Mm-hmm. You know. And then Stalker. Stalker is one that... Stalker is probably tied with Blade Runner 2049 in terms of films that I think about a little bit more so than others that I don't remember anything about.
Stalker's, I think, one of the favorite conversations that we've had on the podcast.
It was a really good one. That one was kind of deep. And that was a pretty good interpretation and some self-reflection and sitting there talking about a film. And
yeah, I think we covered it very well.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right, well, one more bit of business.
Well,
McClain.
You get to assign, right?
So I want to ask you, because I know we've got your diaper party coming up. Mm-hmm. Shout out to that. And we've got a busy weekend ahead of us, you especially.
Yes.
So I want to be conscious of your time.
Yep.
And I know that both Oppenheimer and Barbie are coming out.
Yes.
And I would really like to talk about both of those movies on the same episode. So I'm going to ask you, would you be okay if I recommended a third film to go in with those two, or do you want to just talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer? Because both those movies you'll have to go to the theater to see.
That's what I'm thinking about. That's the one. Probably not. One, the reason why I'm saying probably not is because they come out the next weekend, so I only have 1 week to get these things in before we record again. And I'm already probably going to try to struggle finding a time to do that.
Okay.
So I'm going to say no. We'll see these two. Yeah, unless we were to break it up and you gave me more time to see, I would say Barbie, and I would include that with my film pick, or Oppenheimer. Then we could sneak a third one in there. But if not, if you want to do both of them, then yeah.
I think it'd be cool if we did both. Yeah. So I'll hold off on a recommendation essentially, but I'm going to count Barbie as my recommendation.
Okay.
Since I am the one who is putting this idea forward and kind of forcing you to go see 2 movies in the theaters in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be quick. And I got my son up here, so that's where we're going to get into a little bit of derailment, but I think
it should be okay if we just do those 2.
Yeah, I mean, I got to fit it in. I want to see Oppenheimer's the one that I'm like, whatever. That one I'm going to get in to see. I'm just saying about Barbie. So I'm going to have to find a time that it's probably going to be. Anyways, I'm sitting here selling on the pod. We'll talk about it.
So I will recommend Barbie is my recommendation, and then we'll watch Oppenheimer with it.
Yes.
And that will be episode 51 of the Neon Crew podcast.
Hey, half century mark.
We're, I don't know, we're almost qualifying for AARP. We're going to get there.
Yeah, in about another couple months.
A few months, yeah. We'll reach that point. And on that note, thank you guys so much for listening to the Neon Crew podcast. This was episode 50. If you don't want to be spoiled for Barbie and Oppenheimer, be sure to check those movies out before episode 51. You can find this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We are also on Facebook and YouTube community page. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and give us some good ratings on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I've noticed that we've gotten a few more 5 stars since our last episode.
Let's go.
So I was very thrilled about that, if we can keep that going. Yonder window, I'm looking at you. That would be epic as shit. Be sure to comp some merch on our Etsy page. I'll include a link in the description. And Mac, what do we say to wrap this up?
Oh, WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.